What is up, Rotogrinders? Dean here, Dean78904, daily fantasy handle around the industry. It is the very last basketball show of the season. I have powered through, thoroughly enjoy it. It's probably my favorite DFS sport, but I am thankful. I'm ready for the playoffs. I'm ready to go full bore in the baseball. You can check me out on the old Twitter, DFS_almanac. Tasteful Tides is with us as well, at Tasteful Tides, at TJ Zwarich 5. TJ, was Zwarich 4 taken, or is it used the 5? Is that number kind of special to you? What's the deal with 5?
So I made my Twitter account, I think, when I was early in high school, maybe 9th grade. And so that was my basketball number in high school. So that's what I rolled with.
What did you play in basketball? Who's your comp? What did you? You're a point guard or what? You were down in the post, or?
I was a point guard, probably like a Kyle Lowry or poor man Steph Curry type thing.
Okay.
3-point shooter and distributor.
You're stepping
in.
Oh
yeah. I was taking a lot of charges.
You're that guy. All right. Yeah, fair enough. All right. Who did you follow on Twitter like in 9th grade? Because I didn't have Twitter in 9th. Who do you follow when you're in 9th grade? Who do you care about?
Wildly enough, I was actually one of the very first senior writers for Bleacher Report. And so that's why I got a Twitter account. Is I was 14 years old and I was a NBA and CFL senior writer for Bleacher Report. And I needed Twitter to like help promote my articles.
You were a senior writer at the age of 14?
Yeah.
Okay. Who was below you?
And so like that's how it worked with Bleacher Report back in the day, was that like anyone could post, and then based on like quality of content and how many views it got, like that, you'd be like promoted in your post, and then the higher post you have, the basically better in the algorithm you'd do. And so at one point I was like in like their highest echelon of NBA and CFL writers back in the day.
Did you concentrate on Raptors stuff or just overall the whole league, or what?
Overall the whole league. I was like the main Raptors writer and then the main CFL writer, but then I'd bounce a little bit and do a lot of like ranking stuff. Some of my old rankings lists are so bad, but I was looking at like ranking my like greatest position players of all time when I was still in high school, and like they really aren't bad.
Wow. Well, that's impressive. Tim, what were you doing at 13 or 14 years old?
I definitely was not a senior writer for Bleacher Report. That's for sure. I think I was playing middle school basketball, but that's about it.
Okay. Well, who do you have a comp that you can throw out there?
I was like a poor man's Julius Randle, I guess. Like I was like a 4 that could shoot.
Are you sneaky tall? How tall are you?
I'm 6 feet.
Okay. I don't think that's sneaky tall, but it's kind of tall. To me, that's kind of tall. How tall is TJ?
I'm 5'10".
Okay. There you go. That's kind of where I pegged you. I think that's kind of where I had you. 5'10".
But at 13, I was like 5'8", so I was pretty big, for that year.
There you go.
So June 2008, I wrote the best 10 guards ever to play in the NBA.
Oh, let's pull this list up. I know it's a 9-game slate, but good Lord, I want to talk about this.
Yeah. So in 2008, I was 15 years old, or just about to turn 15. So I was 14 still. My top 5, I'll start at 10. 10.
Kyle Lowry. Where's Kyle Lowry?
Bob Cousy. 9, John Stockton. 8, Isaiah Thomas. 7, Clyde Drexler. 6, George Gervin. I hadn't seen like any of the. Only one I had maybe seen a little play was Stockton. 5, Jerry West. 4, Oscar Robertson. 3, Kobe. 2, Magic, and 1, MJ.
There you go. Well,
honorable mentions of Pete Maravich, Allen Iverson, and Jason Kidd.
Was LeBron considered? Did you consider a guard? I guess not, right? Yeah, I guess he does everything.
This was also 2008, right? He'd only been in the league for 5 years.
Yeah. Well, yeah, fair enough. Well, there you go. I want to see more of your work from Bleacher Report back in the 2008. I'm sure you have some fun articles. Old Takes Exposed is going to hit you. Like somehow you got something's wrong in that list. I'm sure.
I remember I had one that, and again, this is 08, but it was like a top combo guards in the league, and it was like Gilbert Arenas, Monte Ellis, Larry Hughes, and like stuff like that. Like it was some bad stuff.
Larry Hughes, oh man, that dude loved the Chuck, man. Yeah, I remember him. Not a lot of fun on Draft Street. You probably weren't old enough to play Draft Street, or you don't recall Draft Street, but you would get hit with negative points. Patty Mills a few days ago would have like a -3 on Draft Street, which is amazing. That's super, super incredible. Very hard to do. 9-game NBA slate, the last one of the season. Do appreciate y'all joining us for the last basketball show. If you're watching us on YouTube, do hit that like button, do subscribe, do turn on notifications, do fire off your questions. We are compiling them. Producer Steve is all over. He's multitasking today. He's going to be pulling those questions in YouTube, pulling those questions over in the Discord channel. What is that? Rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. Crunch time today is free. Just stay on this stream all the way up to 7 o'clock. You get Andy Means. You get Chief. Chief's going to give you some tournament takes. He's going to give you some picks as far as prize picks. He's in those streets for sure. And you got Andy Means as well. Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist. I'm sure he'll touch on if there's anything lurking out there weather-wise. He'll tell you what's going on there as far as the baseball weather. And now is a good time to tell the people, if you have any baseball questions, if you tuned into this show and you're saying, hey, I'm playing the 5-game baseball slate tonight, we'll answer your baseball questions too. TJ, this is like his 4th show today, or 6th show. How many shows have you had today, TJ?
Number 4, 1 expert survey, 4 shows. I got to record my Agents of Fandom podcast later, and then my sister-in-law is performing in a show later. She's an actor, so busy day of me performing and going to some performances.
Awesome. Do you have a guest lined up for anybody, an actor or an actress tonight in your podcast, or it's just a
fellow writer in the industry from thedirect.com? My friend Richard is going to be joining us, talk some Moon Knight.
There you go. I apparently that's good. I haven't seen it. It's on the Disney Plus, right?
Yeah. You may even like it, Dean. You may even like it. It's not your typical superhero show.
I like the John Cena one that was on HBO Max. What was that called?
Yeah, Peacemaker was fantastic.
Yeah, that was very good. I enjoyed that. Tim, did you like the comics, the Marvel?
No, I never got into any of that, but I'll check it out for sure.
It's not my bag. It's not my forte either, but I did like the Cena show, and I like the one that's on Amazon as well. Bad Guys, Good Guys. What's it called?
The Boys.
The Boys.
The Boys is fantastic.
That is phenomenal. That's like an anti-superhero show, right? I guess is that a way of saying that?
Basically, just like if superheroes existed in real life, what would it be like? And if they were controlled by the government?
Yeah.
And so it's a pretty cool concept. Moon Knight's a fun one too, because the main character, it's Oscar Isaac. He's got dissociative identity disorder. And so like one of his personalities is a gift shop worker. One of his personalities is a mercenary. And it's very interesting stuff.
All right. Well, maybe we'll check it out one of these days. I've had Disney Plus for like 6 months. I don't watch anything on there. It's just a part of my Hulu ESPN package, but maybe one day we'll dust it off. Who knows? We'll see. Again, 9-game, NBA slate. If you have any baseball questions, just tune in for baseball. And also, if you want to watch, if you want baseball takes right now, Dave Potts Cheese is good. And TJ gave some takes on the earlier show. They talked about the 1 o'clock slate, but at the end, you guys talked about the 7 o'clock slate. So feel free to find that video as well. But again, if you have any questions regarding tonight's 5-gamer, happy to answer those. And also, Kevin Roth, if there's any weather lurking, I'm sure he's going to tackle that later on in crunch time. All right. Got all the formalities out of the way, at least for now. All right. 9-game slate. We know the deal. Motivation, tanking, yada, yada, yada. The Lakers and OKC, of course. We can't avoid this, Tim. That is the game on the slate. Well, and I think Cleveland, Brooklyn for motivation is the most interesting one as well, too, as far as, stars. And we'll see about Giannis Antetokounmpo. We were talking about this pre-show. He's questionable. I think it's very likely he sits. You talked about the prospect of maybe more guys in Milwaukee sitting. I'm surprised it's just one. They're facing Detroit. Detroit wants to lose anyway. Detroit would be angry. Probably Milwaukee sits everybody, but we'll see how that works. And then who else do we have? Toronto. One of the beats for Toronto was speculating that I don't know if he ever worked for Bleacher Report, but did you see this? TJ is Eric. What's the guy's name? He's one of the more prominent.
Eric Kareen. Yeah, like the Raptors beat reporters are some of the very best beat reporters we have in the DFS industry. Nick Nurse always is like trying to throw curveballs at us, but Eric Kareen, Blake Murphy, like those guys are fantastic for keeping you up to date on the news.
Kareen is good. There's that one guy who's kind of a curmudgeon who blocks everybody that anybody asks about DFS, which I kind of understand.
Josh Lewenberg. That guy, yeah, that guy's kind of a curmudgeon's a good way to put it. But Murphy and Kareen are both fantastic.
Yeah, but he speculated that Toronto might pull some funny business. We haven't seen anything just yet. But you know, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And that game was relatively early, I believe, right? I know
it's 7:30.
Okay. Yeah, so we want to stay tuned as far as that stuff because we potentially might see some shenanigans. They're facing Houston, and we'll talk about that. But as of right now, Tim, as far as this slate, I always like to look at, the point per dollar plays, and we're looking 10x projection for Taylor Horton Tucker. We saw the Lakers ruled out all their, the big three. THT, we saw him go absolutely nuts last night, 37% usage, something like that, and he's facing OKC tonight. And it makes all the sense in the world. I think they also lost their pick too, right? The Lakers.
Yes.
Whatever. So
they're drawing dead for that pick. They're drawing dead for that pick.
They're drawing dead, and OKC on the other side is happy to lay down. So Lakers like a 5-point favorite or something like that. So like THT and Monk are just jumping off the page as two screaming values. On the other side, Simpson and Frazier, Waters, who knows, depending on how OKC runs their lineups out there. That's where our big cheapies are. And then you have the Washington stuff, potentially a guy like Thomas Bryant might get dusted off. But Dwight Howard's another guy. These are the cheapies in the slate. I feel really good about Horton Tucker. I feel pretty good about Monk as well. There's Stanley Johnson too. He's there. They don't really have to play Stanley Johnson, but they probably will. Gafford could be interesting with the absence of Porzingis, but yeah, before we dive in fully, talk to me about the cheapies to kind of make stuff work.
Yeah.
Yes. There's somebody on this Lakers side that you didn't mention that we talked about on the Fanduel strategy show that Tuttle brought up, and somebody
Reeves?
I'm quite interested in as well. And that's Mason Jones.
Scored 38 points last night in the G League. Yes. Okay. He's questionable. And okay.
And so the Lakers G League team is done now. And this is a guy that's was like in the running for G League MVP. And if he gets the run, we'll just shoot as many shots as he can. So like if this game gets gross and they just decide to play all their young guys just because why not? You never know. He could even start. And I don't
know why you wouldn't start him over like Stanley Johnson, to be honest. Like I don't know why you wouldn't, but whatever.
Yeah.
And I was just gonna say you could put Stanley at utility and then boom, put in Mason Jones right there. Swap to him. That's your late night get different spot.
How many Lakers is too many Lakers? Like you could potentially play 4 Lakers tonight.
I don't want to play Stanley Johnson. I'm already basically Xing him out. I don't want to play him.
What if he starts?
That makes no difference to me.
Okay.
No, I think he's the guy that's popping in projections who I don't really, especially at this ownership, I don't really want any piece of him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
So another interesting thing I think to look at with the Lakers is most of these guys are pretty young, except for somebody like Dwight Howard, who's still playing pretty big minutes. And so if he starts, he's a great play. If he doesn't, probably looking at big Wenyen Gabriel minutes if he can stay out of foul trouble. And so with this being an island game in the sense that no other games are around it to swap to, an interesting route is having Isaiah Roby and Dwight Howard in the same lineup so that if need be, you can make a swap, Roby to the center spot and then Wenyen Gabriel in for Dwight Howard over on FanDuel.
At some point, raw points matter, but it's really because you probably can run like 6 guys in that game. And but I don't know if you can get 6 guys and then like Durant and Garland or something like that. If that's something that would work, I'm just sort of thinking out loud.
As it stands right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players from this game in my lineup, but that'll probably change based on Milwaukee and Toronto news. But we were taking our time at the beginning of this episode, and we were saying it's a 9-game slate, so we will get to it, but it almost isn't for me. And even though I'm only playing one lineup, I think it'd be the same if I was playing 150. It's going to be quite condensed to great spots and then variations of those spots for me. So we'll get to that as they come, but it's going to be a lot of probably Milwaukee, some pieces of this Washington Knicks game, a lot of this Cleveland Brooklyn game, a lot of the Toronto Houston game, and then I'm probably going to be chilling a little bit aside from a few pieces until this Laker OKC game.
Yeah, like it's always easy where you can sit there and say, well, yeah, you could play this guy and that guy and this guy and that guy. And you put the 4 guys that start for this team and you say for about every single team. But in no way is that helpful. Like if for a viewer or for a listener, if you say like, yeah, sure, you can play Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and you can play Max Strus. Like, okay, yeah, you can play those guys. But like, are you prioritizing them? Just picking out Miami, a team that's locked up the number 1 seed. Like they're one of my least favorite teams in the slate. We'll kind of work through it. We'll kind of talk about it. The Phoenix-Utah game, to me, is terribly uninteresting. Like 2 teams that are just like Phoenix, I guess they kind of want to like bounce back after the disaster, but they're also sitting in their 1 spot. I don't see myself playing a Portland Blazer as of right now. I can't really see a scenario unless something really goes awry as far as my lineups. But yeah, we're going to do game by game, but like certainly there are some very clear spots to focus on and some other spots where not so much. And again, we're also in the dark when it comes to Milwaukee, which may become really interesting, and Toronto, which may become really interesting. Kind of sort of stay tuned on some potential news there. I'm just running some optimals right now, by the way. And very first one on DK has 3 Lakers and 1 Thunder for what it's worth. Also has Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think is not going to play basketball tonight, but we'll wait on that, of course. Tim, you got anything else before we kind of dive in and break it down?
Well, I'll just lead us right into the Bucks. I mean, I think if Giannis does play, he's kind of, in my opinion, over-owned on Fanduel. Because I don't think, I just, the way that I'm building lineups, I'd rather get to like Durant or Kyrie.
100%.
Or, right. I mean, like I want that 40 minutes or Garland. I want that 40-minute upside. So right off the bat on FanDuel, I think at that ownership, if he does play, I think that's too high. I'm not saying if you're multi-entering, you can't have him, but I think that projection's too high for ownership.
If he doesn't play, though, then what do you do with guys like we always, now Holiday's to play, now Middleton's to play, a guy like Portis gets bumped. But at the same time, like Detroit is a team that's going to happily lay down. They're involved in the tankathon. They want to lose this game. How much do they push their secondary players?
But the thing is, this is just my take. If Giannis sits, I think Detroit sits a couple guys too. So I think you see a lot of funny business all around. So let's just say it's only Giannis that sits. I guess I would prioritize Middleton, but I'd probably have to play both because it would seem to me that they want to win this game. So if it's just Giannis, I'm probably going to prioritize Holiday and Middleton. But if they all sit, then it's kind of up to us to determine if like a guy like Jordan Nwora is more valuable than a guy like, Taylor Horton-Tucker, Xavier Simpson, in that range.
Yeah. And then we've seen Detroit do some funny business over the year where they played, they started Beef Stew, they started Cunningham a week or 2 ago, whatever it was. And they played like 8 minutes and they essentially ran a 6-man rotation, trying their best to lose. Now they were facing another tank. I think they were facing OKC. Played their guys like 40 minutes or so. They are short in a couple bodies because they're in the G League playoffs. I guess they want to win that. So I think like Saban Lee is not there. Olynyk should be available, but Gruder should be available in theory. No Bagley. Joseph is questionable. A vet, like probably not going to play him. We'll see. And again, speculating isn't worth a ton because again, we'll know this at some point, probably during this show, possibly in theory, or if not, then during the Crunch Time show, which is I guess also in this show too. What do you have, TJ? Because it's a lot of sort of if then and a lot of speculation, but I do agree. Like if Giannis goes, I'm still prioritizing Durant, who fully motivated, barring goofiness, is playing 40-plus minutes. Same deal with Irving, playing 40-plus minutes. Same deal with Garland, playing 40-plus minutes. I love Giannis. He's awesome, but you have to also consider all those sort of intangibles. What do you have here as far as this game? 229 the total, Milwaukee 6-point favorite.
And so I don't think this will matter too much. So I don't have too much to add, based on what the two of you said, other than I actually do think Giannis is on both FanDuel and DraftKings, especially FanDuel where he's cheaper, if he plays, a very good tournament play. And the reason for that is I don't think that ownership will be accurate. I think that ownership is based on, we're looking at above 30% on FanDuel right now. And I think that ownership is just based on his projection. It's based on Giannis is cheaper than some of these other guys and he's projected very well. Therefore, this is what his ownership would be. But he's had this Q tag all day. No one's expecting him to play. Everyone building their lineup right now is doing it without Giannis in it. So I don't actually think, even though this is the first game and we'll get this before lock, I don't actually think if he plays, he's going to have that crazy of ownership. I think it's probably going to be closer to the 15-20% range. So because of that, I think he becomes very, very interesting. And if he doesn't play, if he's the sole guy out, Middleton has a very nice price tag, 7,200 on FanDuel. I believe he's under 8K on DK as well. He'd be my favorite, but I actually don't think Drew Holiday, Bobby Portis, any of these guys would be like crazy high priorities. Like they're good plays that you have in your pool. But like I think they're definitely still fadeable in tournaments.
And they're also fadeable just because we don't have all the information on the slate yet. So you want to leave that flexibility. So you probably don't want to get too crazy on either site with Bucks players if it's just, Giannis that sits.
If we don't have Toronto news, you're less likely to take a chance. Is that kind of like the big one that we're waiting for? Which you may have Toronto news because it's only a half hour afterwards.
Right, yeah. We probably are going to have that news, but if we don't, that's big.
What else will we get? Of course we can get anything, but like what else could we get if you're going to speculate?
An interesting one that we haven't seen yet that we're still waiting for that I think is actually pretty important is Evan Mobley. He's still listed as questionable for this game. And I think that's very relevant because these Cleveland guys on the opposite side, we want to play a lot of Kyrie. We want to play a lot of KD. But Karis LeVert, FanDuel, 5,600 is ridiculously underpriced. If Mobley doesn't play, Kevin Love at 5,500 is a very strong tournament play to kind of work in a mini stack for that one. And if Mobley does play, he's under 7K on FanDuel. So he's a very interesting one that I think we have to keep our eye on still.
Yeah, it appears Mobley is likely to play. I think an interesting one is Levine, who is still currently probable, but it wouldn't shock me if he becomes doubtful or out. He's been dealing with that knee for a while now. Chicago.
And he looks like a fantastic play if he does play. It's 6,900 on FanDuel.
He does, except for like he's really scuffling. So and then there's no way of quantifying it, but it seems like he's really dealing with whatever he's dealing with. And also Chicago is like entrenched essentially in that 6th spot. They're not going to move up. They're not going to move back.
He's very high projected own on FanDuel also.
I'm cautious on Levine. I'm cautious.
See, I do think our projected ownerships are going to change a lot as we get some news. And I think today is going to be not trying to take anything away from our projected people who are working on it, because I don't have any other answers either. But like, I don't think it's going to be easy to project today. And I don't know how much we're going to be able to rely, not on ours, but on anyone's, because it's like somebody like Levine and somebody and Giannis who have these tags beside them, and people, those aren't the games people are going to be gravitating to. I don't think we're going to see as many people go to them as much as the optimizers would suggest.
It's interesting you say that because I was going to say that Giannis is hitting the optimizer. I put a threshold on my caps. I made 150 lineups, I think, on FanDuel, just kind of like a little bit of tinkering, but more or less like what the projections are saying. And I capped it at 67%. And on FanDuel, Giannis hit 67%, along with THT, along with Stanley Johnson, along with Malik Monk, Xavier Simpson, and RJ Barrett, for the record. That's the guys that kind of hit my cap. And you said that you think he's going to be like 15% if he plays. And I don't know. because some people just kind of go by projections and some people obviously tinker and do their own thing. And for the record, I don't disagree. Of course, he's a good tournament play. If you're running 150 lineups, running 50, he's got to be in your pool. If I'm running 3, I have Durant ahead of him. I just do. But like, if you think the ownership's going to be different and Durant's going to be distinctly over-owned on him, which he should be for the reasons we've kind of laid out, then that's why you would play yourself some Giannis as well. Detroit.
And I know, so Durant and Giannis are the same position, but I think another conversation we have to have, because the game environments are more similar based on potential blowouts. Where do you compare Giannis if he plays to Luka? Because obviously we like Durant and we like Kyrie Irving because they're probably going to play 40 minutes in a competitive matchup. Luka Doncic is another player like Giannis Antetokounmpo who projects very well because it's a easy matchup against a bad team, but he very well might only play 26 minutes in this one.
That's a great question. Bad, by the way, you're being kind to the Blazers to call them just a bad team. You could have used a lot more adjectives. It is horrific. I think they're 20-point favorites or 19. It's an insane number. You just don't really see this. And also Dallas has a reason that they want to win. Like, they should. Portland's happy to give them the game. They've been incredible in the tankathon. I think they've lost 9 in a row now. Just an amazing job. But shout out to the Blazers. They're going to make it 10 tonight, I presume. And Dallas has a chance of getting that 3 spot, sneaking up on Golden State. And Tim, you would think, I would think that Dallas would rather play, if you're thinking steps down the road, avoid Phoenix, play Memphis in the second round as opposed to Phoenix in the second round. Of course, that doesn't guarantee you're playing, but you know what I mean? That just feels better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, Dallas is going to blow out Portland tonight. I think that's a foregone conclusion. But what does that mean from a DFS perspective? I'm not really that sure. So for me, I'm out on Luka on my single entry build. But of course, I mean, he could end up being the highest raw point scorer by a lot tonight.
What if?
And that's the thing. That's the reason why I asked that question is, if doing the DFS expert survey today, a lot of people, both for Fanduel and DraftKings where Luka is even more expensive, over 12K. A lot of people had Luka as their favorite pay up for optimal lineups tonight. And for me, I actually had him as the player I'm most afraid to be underweight on because in my one single entry, I don't have him. If I was playing lots of lineups tonight, I would, obviously, but I am having trouble prioritizing him right now until we get some of this Rockets and Raptors news, and until we learn a little bit more about this Milwaukee situation. I really find myself gravitating to Cleveland and Brooklyn and that OKC Lakers game.
I mean, that's exactly what I would have put on my survey too. He is definitely the guy I'm most afraid of to be underweight on. Absolutely, but still, I'm still going to fade him.
Yeah. Like case in point, 27 or 28 minutes it was the other day against the Lakers. He had 69 fantasy points.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And this is a Lakers level opponent.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting. He might be able to get there in 3 quarters. And guess what? The game might not blow out. That's possible too. It's possible Dallas wins that game by 8. That can happen. They don't play tomorrow. They didn't play yesterday. It's an island game. But
I mean, they're 20-point favorites.
I know. No,
the thing is it'll probably blow out, but I guess it's really just about 2. Will this be a 15-point game going into the 4th, or will it be a 35-point game going into the 4th?
Yes, that is a good point. I don't think I've ever seen a line this big.
It's pretty big.
I've seen plenty 17, 16s, but I don't know if I've ever seen a spread that big in the NBA.
What would it be if it was a full throttle Phoenix team? This Dallas is not even the best team in the league, right? They're good. But what would it be if it was I don't know, whatever you want to label as the best Milwaukee, a full-fledged Milwaukee team at home, 23?
A team that doesn't play incredibly slow like Dallas does too.
Yeah. I don't know where that number would, I don't know how much higher you can make it, but all right. Hey, we didn't really talk about the Pistons. TJ, you want to talk about the Pistons?
The only players I would play is I think you can take shots on Cade Cunningham on both sites, FanDuel and DraftKings. You can take a shot on him if you want for upside if you're MMEing, especially if you're playing a lot of these Bucks guys. On FanDuel, Sadiq Bey is still ridiculously underpriced. Other than that, I'm kind of out on these guys.
They're just
Braxton
not going to get
Key,
Bay minutes.
Isaiah Livers, those guys that have been like playing decently, they're priced up now. So like, not for me.
I really like Sadiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart on FanDuel today, but not DK. I think I'm out.
5-2 is appealing, yeah, and like you're just not sure what those minutes are going to be. And again, the math, the logic, whatever reasoning is that the more likely you are to lose, the more you are losing. I think the more likely Bay is going to be out there on the court. Tim, is that a reasonable?
Yes, thought? I agree with that completely.
Yeah,
and like so, the thing with Bay, the reason I'm worried about not getting a ton of Bay, even though I do like him, is I don't like him as much as Jalen Horde, Karis LeVert, Gary Trent if he plays and starts, Taylor Horton Tucker at the cheap end. So like, there's just other guys at that position I like getting to more.
All right, Knicks, Wizards, 223 is the total. Knicks are 3-point favorites here. Finally, I've been waiting for the Wizards to shut down. I don't know, Porzingis. He played 18 first half minutes the other day on a back-to-back on a 3rd and 4 nights. And I was losing he crushed. I was so disappointed. But Porzingis, they ruled him out tonight. No KCP as well. As far as the New York side, Mitch Robb is still out. They're playing. Tibbs is still playing his guys. I don't know, man. Does he not have access to the standings? But Obi Toppin plays a ton of minutes. The salary is finally catching up with him. You get the Walls. Jericho has been starting these days as well too. I don't know how much you need that as far as you're going to power rank the cheapies. Jericho Sims certainly behind a lot of the other guys we're going to be talking about. I'll throw this one to you, Tim. This game overall is kind of meh. I think Denny Avdia is probably the most appealing play for me. The absence of Porzingis, maybe Gafford gets up there, but again, there's probably some other centers that I prefer more. Not a ton of opportunity cost center today. We'll talk about that as well because no Embiid, no Jokic, no Cat. You're probably saving salary at center. Wizards, Knicks. Tim, go.
Yeah, so for the Knicks side, it's all about lineup construction for me. This slate is going to be so stars and scrubs, I think, by the time we end up finishing this slate. And so guys like Burks and Barrett, I think since they're kind of like in the more mid-range, are going to be left out. So like their ownership projection right now is too high. And I think that's going to make them really good GPP plays because they're going to be more on that balanced build kind of look. I really like RJ Barrett tonight. I really want to find a way to be able to play him. And I hope that, I have that, I can make that work the way that salary's set up.
Yeah, RJ Barrett, 7,600 on FanDuel is a nice price tag. Emmanuel Quickly is somebody that disappointed a lot of people the other night, but he's got a high ceiling. To me, tough to get to just because there's a few too many other options. Obi Toppin's priced up, but 6,500 on FanDuel. If he's going to play 40 minutes, like he's interesting. He's definitely still somebody you got to peek at. So Obi Toppin, I think, is reasonable. That's about it for me on that team, though. Sims you can play, but I just think there's some better options tonight. On the Washington side, Avdia, I agree, is interesting. Hachimura, I think, is very interesting. Thomas Bryant, you could take the shot on if you want, but that's not for me. I think there's better value options. And then Daniel Gafford, I have more interest in than Bryant just because he could, if he plays 24, 26 minutes, he could block 8 shots in that amount of time. So you talked about opportunity cost at center tonight is not that high. Center is weak tonight. The highest projected center is Rudy Gobert, and I have no interest in playing him. So that's something that I definitely think you can try and get different. And I think there are definitely worse plays than Daniel Gafford there.
I definitely second the Gafford call because if he exceeds his minutes projection, which is what you want in a tournament setting, he's going to absolutely crush those price tags on both sites.
I'm trying to see what we're chopping. I'm guessing we're chopping Gafford and Bryant. Is that what we're doing? Let's see. We have Bryant projected for 22. We have not seen him play 22 minutes in a while. He's been playing like 6, 7, 8 sprinklings here and there, and 22 for Gafford. So I'm not even giving full 48. I think I would take the over on 22 Gafford minutes, but
I would too. That's the thing. Like I think he'll end up exceeding that projection.
The Rui one's weird because he's former lottery pick, kind of disappointing. injuries, and they've given him 31 and 37 minutes the last couple of games, which is kind of surprising, but I guess he's going to play 30 plus minutes again.
He interests me a lot, actually, because I think he's going to be the one picking up quite a bit of backup center minutes. I don't think Thomas Bryant's going to get them all. I think it's going to be Hachimura, because who's getting the backup center minutes right now for the Knicks? Probably Obi Toppin. Or
that's a good call.
Is Taj Gibson even in the lineup? And
Gibson will play.
And it's not like Gibson's exactly a post threat. So I think it would make a lot of sense for Hachimura to get that time, because that's someone they want to give the minutes to, where Bryant, they clearly don't.
Yeah, New York's fives will probably be Sims, Gibson, and Toppin, some sort of combination of that. We're projecting Sims to start alongside Toppin playing the 4. Yeah, I think Avdia is pretty interesting. But again, I don't know how much we're going to need this stuff when it's all said and done. But fine filler, Gafford a fine filler. Bryant, it's hard to see his minutes jumping a ton because, again, injury history, basically a lost season for him. I wouldn't think they would push him beyond 20, 22 minutes or something like that. Give me this, Tim, your favorite play on each side of this game.
Oh, it's easily Barrett for the Knicks and Gafford for the Wizards.
Same question, TJ?
Probably Barrett and Hachimura.
Yeah. I mean, we're projecting Toppin for 36. It's hard to project 43, which he played last game, but he might play 43. It wouldn't surprise any of us. Barrett, we're projecting 39. He might play more than that too. Burke's playing.
And I'll
30.
say where that differs is my favorite play on DK. We kind of glossed over this, but Jericho Sims is $3,700 with power forward eligibility on DraftKings.
Yeah.
On DraftKings, to me, him and Toppin are by far the best plays. 6,200 for Toppin there. But Sims would be my number one on DK with Toppin too. And then on the Washington side, it's I think that's where I like Gafford better than Hachimura. But on Fanduel, where their prices are closer together, that's where I like Hachimura.
We got Maxi Kleber ruled out. All right, so Toronto's at home versus Houston. 228 is the total. They're 11-point favorites. Houston, they shut down Wood and Gordon and Dennis Schroeder. Toronto, FEV, it looks like he's expected to play tonight or expected to be available. There is some hesitation. There's some speculation as far as what Toronto's up to. Easy opponent, back-to-back. Achua is also questionable with his knee, but there are scenarios where we can see Boucher get loose. Yeah, you mentioned Trent, TJ. I don't know what we could say. We just kind of our best guesses at this point. But if everything is as it is right now, what are your thoughts as far as this game?
Yeah, so I'll try and just cover both really quick. If everyone plays for the Raptors, I don't have a lot of interest, except for maybe if you're MMEing this center situation. The thing to keep an eye on is, yes, obviously the beat reporters are talking about maybe lots of guys will be rested. Van Vliet's questionable. Achiuwa's questionable. Boucher left last games early with a facial laceration. If everyone plays, I don't have a lot of interest. But if even just Precious Achiuwa's out, Chris Boucher becomes one of the most interesting plays on the entire slate. If Boucher starts, he's probably the best center option on the entire slate. He's $4,500 on Fanduel. On DraftKings, I'm pulling up what he is right now. DraftKings, he's 500s, and he only has power forward eligibility. So it's not quite as exciting. But even Achiuwa, if he plays, he played 40 minutes last game, and he's 3,900 on Fanduel. So these centers I have interest in probably regardless. But if all of a sudden we get Van Vliet out, Gary Trent, if he starts at point guard, is a fantastic play. If they rule all these guys out, all of a sudden Malachi Flynn, 4,900, if he's the starting point guard, he's one of the best plays on the slate. And so this is really tough to talk too much about right now because we don't know the news. But just remember, with Nick Nurse and the Toronto Raptors, their starters play a lot of minutes as long as their name is not Khem Birch. So don't play Khem Birch. But if Achiuwa starts, he's a very strong play. If Boucher starts, he's a phenomenal play. If Barnes is the point guard, if Trent is the point guard, they're great plays. Siakam showed what he can do right now without Van Vliet in the lineup. So if they all play, be light on them. But even Thad Young played 30 minutes last night. So if you start getting these guys ruled out, there's no better matchup than Houston, especially for the bigs. Load up on Raptors, regardless of who the injuries are, if they're there. But if they're not there, then don't get too strong on these guys, because it'll probably just be Van Vliet, Siakam, and your typical starters soaking up the minutes, and you never really know which one of them is going to go off when they're all in.
And this is why, you don't want to load up on the Bucks, because you're waiting for this game. So if you have the Bucks news and you don't have this game's news, I would gamble and wait for this game, because just like TJ said, these Raptors are going to play such big minutes. So, I mean, they would become the top values on the slate over anyone the Bucks can do, in my opinion.
Toronto really can't move, though, is the thing. They're in the 5 spot, and they're basically in the 5 spot. They can theoretically, I think, move up to 4. If Philadelphia loses a couple games, that's probably not going to happen.
If they go 0-2, if Philly goes 0-2 and the Raptors go 2-0, then they're the 4 seed.
Yeah, but
I mean, the players who are on the court and the players who are healthy and Nick Nurse will be going for that. That's who they are. That's what they do. But also that win they just had against Philly was a big one, because
tiebreaker
that got them the tiebreaker now. And so, do you remember multiple shows ago when they were like the 8 or 9 seed? This was a couple months ago, and I was saying, don't sleep on the Raptors. They're going to keep moving up. They've been hurt. And now here they are. They're fighting for that 4 seed. So you never know. You never know. It could happen. I think the Raptors have some pretty easy matchups left. The 76ers, who do they still have? They have the Pacers. Never mind. They're not going.
Yeah, forget
they
it.
Pacers, Pistons. So yeah, they got the Raptors.
It's not happening.
4 seed. But yeah, the players who are in the starting lineup will still get some solid minutes. But if there's injuries, load up. If not, cool down.
Did you watch the game yesterday? Were you excited about watching your Raptors? That was a fun game for Pascal, for beating Philadelphia. We saw Thad Young play 20 straight minutes in the second half. Precious Achiuwa didn't start the second half for some reason. Boucher started for him, and then he got bopped in the head, and he basically disappeared. We came back at some point, but yeah, your thoughts?
I wasn't watching that game because, as you know, I'm at my parents' house right now. Because my place doesn't have any Wi-Fi, any cable yet. So my options are hotspotting from home or taking my laptop to my parents' house. So not a lot of great viewing options. I've been watching a lot of DVDs.
You still have DVDs?
I got DVDs. I got Blu-rays. They got even the odd VHS in the house.
I got nothing to even play. Oh, PS4. I guess I can play a DVD in, I suppose, right?
Yeah, like PS5s can too. I got I have my PS5 downstairs, my Xbox One upstairs, but they both work for DVDs and Blu-rays.
Tim, you got any DVDs?
I don't. I was just thinking about that.
I'm the youngest one here, and I got DVDs and VHSs. Come on, guys.
I used to, whenever I would go to somebody's apartment or their house, one of my favorite ways, the best way to judge people, people would have their DVDs on display. So, they like that. This is a good. They like this. They have terrible. I don't want to talk. They have was a Nickelback CD, like their CD collection or the DVD collection. I would judge them right away. I got to leave this apartment. I don't know how to judge people anymore.
We got all the DVDs out on display in alphabetical order. We got a record player with all of our records out.
We got to get a picture of this on Twitter. I want to see this.
I'll do some kind of house tour as soon as I got everything set up. I posted pictures on Twitter of my office that I've been putting together, and it's been looking pretty cool. It's pretty bonkers.
The Rockets are playing basketball tonight. Does anybody care?
Yes.
Okay.
Kevin Porter Jr.
Right.
Love it. Jalen Green, love it for tournaments. Şengün, 7K, Fanduel, that's a heck of a sticker shock. But if you're playing lots of lineups, he still has a crazy high ceiling. So especially if these Raptors injuries start getting ruled out, and the likelihood of this game getting closer increases. These Houston guys have been playing 40 minutes a night. Kevin Porter Jr. is playing 40 minutes a night. Jalen Green, 40 minutes a night. I have lots of interest in those three that I mentioned for Houston. Not really anybody else on the team, though.
They're playing in losses those minutes, though. They've lost 5 in a row, and they don't want to win. Is the other part? Is there only one game up on Orlando?
For sure, but they're still going out there and giving those guys big minutes. They're letting their young guys run, and Kevin Porter Jr. has been showing 60-point ceilings lately.
Yeah.
And so 8K for a guy who scores over a fantasy point per minute and who's playing over 40 minutes, play him at point guard, play him at small forward. Yeah, I got a lot of value. Jalen Green, he's just shooting 25 plus shots every night. He's putting 30 points up every single game. So he's somebody I'm interested in tournaments. This is a fun potential game stack game.
You're running 150. Like I'm looking at the ownership stuff. Sengun at 14%, Green at 2, Porter at like 2. Like how over the field are you gonna be in these guys?
If so, I'm playing one lineup tonight, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to them. But if I was playing 150, I'd be having at least probably 10 to 20% of Porter and Green, and probably about 20 to 25 of Sengun.
Tim, Red lead is out.
Well, the rest is probably going to be more dropping then.
Yeah, FEV is out.
Yeah, he was off the injury report, which was a lie.
Right.
Kuzma's missing the rest of the season. No, really? Did not piece that one together. Are we going to get more? Or is it just going to be this? FEV is out. We're not sure if Flynn starts. We saw who drew the start last night. They ran with their bigs, right? Their starting lineup last night was actually I think I have it right in front of me. It was Barnes, Pascal, Achua, Birch, and Trent. All those guys are interesting with the exception of Birch, and also maybe one of those guys gets ruled out. Stay tuned.
Yeah, so as it stands right now, I think Gary Trent is very interesting as a starting point guard. But if he gets ruled out, Scotty Barnes very interesting. If Scotty Barnes is ruled out, fire up the Malachi Flynn. And obviously, yes, Pascal Siakam is a great play too. But just talking about kind of the depth chart of how they run their point guard rotation.
No Dodger homers in cores just yet, but they're up 4-2 in the fourth. Tim, Rockets?
KBJ would be the only one for me. He's flashed a massive ceiling. So, I mean, he could definitely get there at 8.4 on both sites. I mean, TJ is right about Jalen Green, but there's just no way that I don't think I'm going to play him. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't take a lot to get overweight them in tournaments. So that is a good thing. So if you're making like 20, you could put them in, 3 and you'd be way overweight. So I do agree with TJ also. This is a really good game stat game, depending on how injuries go down. So, I mean, I'm not going to get to them in my single entry build though.
I agree with that.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
For single entry, we're not going to get to them. But like, if we're talking about our favorite build right now is mixing in some Brooklyn and some Cleveland. That KD sped up maybe some Cleveland guys with them. But if you're playing lots of lineups, that's a great way to get different. And a really fun way would be, say, if even we get nothing else, you go, instead of your KD, you go Siakam. Instead of your LeVert, you go Gary Trent. Instead of your Kyrie Irving, you go Kevin Porter Jr., and then you mix Sengun in there. This game could be 128, 125. And then if that Brooklyn game disappoints, you are way ahead of the field on everybody else. So it's definitely a very high upside, low owned spot.
That's a good segue to the next game because we do have Cleveland versus Brooklyn. We're expecting Mobley to be good to go. Seth Curry should be available for Brooklyn as well. Dragic still out, of course. Two teams that are fully incentivized. 232.5 is the total. Cleveland 8-point dogs here. Cleveland is, they have the 7 spot currently. They want to have that home game. I'm not sure who has the tiebreaker or not, but Brooklyn is 1 game behind them in the 7 versus 8. Brooklyn absolutely does not want to fall back to the 9. They're currently tied with Atlanta for 8-9. I think they have the tiebreaker. So Brooklyn just really, really wants to keep on winning. They don't want to have to play 2 playing games. They just want to play 1 playing game, the 7 versus the 8. All right. We've kind of made it clear. This is one of the premier games in the slate when it comes to multiple things, but trusting that certain guys are going to play. We can trust that Kyrie's going to play. We can trust Durant's going to play a ton. Garland on the other side. You have the revenge game with LeVert. Tim, how excited? They're expensive is the tricky part, but we have so
much value tonight though. I mean, it's Kyrie for me on Fanduel, and it's probably going to be Durant for me on DraftKings, and then it's probably going to be Garland on both Fanduel and DK, and then it's going to be and then probably LeVert on Fanduel also. So I think I'm going to be playing 2 Cavs. And then 1 net on each site.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that out too. Like, can you play Kyrie and Durant together? I
haven't tried to do that yet. I don't know if I want to. but it certainly would be a unique way to build a GPP lineup.
You'd probably have to play like LeVert instead of Garland, I think. I don't know if you have to, but I guess you probably could play Garland, Irving, and on Fanduel, you probably can make it work because that's really stars and scrubsy over there. Hey, DK too. I'm not sure if you can play 3 starts on DK.
It can be made work on Fanduel. My current build is making it work.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to say on that, this is something that Luch and I talked about on the morning grind, and then we touched on this on the Fanduel show as well. And we all kind of were on the same page that even though it's a big slate, based on the lack of spend up options, you can pair Kyrie and Durant tonight, even though you normally wouldn't, as long as Giannis is out. The ceilings, they're both going to play 40 minutes probably as long as this game's close. So they both can hit. The thing is with more spend up options, it just becomes less and less likely that they're both optimal. But if all of a sudden you get Giannis out and there's less spend up options on the slate, even especially say we get Siakam out too, and there's even less, all you need is Luka Doncic to fail, this game to stay close, and you have a very good chance that both of those players, both Kyrie and KD, are optimal. Now, if Giannis is in, then it's a little tougher because there's more guys in that similar price tag that have to be hitting, that can hit it. So that makes you probably more so want to choose between the two of them. But if we get Giannis,
could I make an argument? Not to cut you off, but couldn't I make an argument that if Giannis was out, all of a sudden, like the 7-8K guys like Middleton and Drew Holiday, or maybe like a Portis, or depending on what else happens, there's another route, and now there's another new path, like it's a victory. It gets created. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely, and that is a very reasonable path as well. But I also just think you can do, like, it gives you more opportunity to be able to do Durant and Kyrie. There's less opportunity cost because you're not fading Giannis to get to KD in that lineup. You're just, that's where your price tier is. So it works. We have so much value on this slate that, yeah, mid-tier build might win, but you can also probably build a lineup with 3 to 4K guys that are all going to put 30 plus points up. So it's a lot more reasonable if there's less spend up options to get both KD and Kyrie in the lineup.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking like 2 studs and then maybe like a Holiday, maybe like a Middleton, or maybe Holiday and Middleton. And like, I don't know if you probably on Fanduel, you probably can get like 2 of the big boys in this game and Holiday, Middleton, and make that work on Fanduel. I'm guessing you can. Have not run it. Just for funsies, I just ran it on DK with Kyrie, Durant, and Garland. Like, you get reasonable looking lineups.
You got 3,700 per player on DK, and I think 4,900 per player on Fanduel if you do that.
It's really easy to do on Fanduel.
Yeah, it's really easy to do on Fanduel.
You go Kyrie, you go Durant, you go Garland, and you go LeVert, and it's still really easy to make a beautiful team.
THT, Monk, are those guys both in that one? I've not run that one, but yeah. THT, of course, is like
THT is in it. Monk, I don't have in that lineup right now, but I do think now I got to find ways to adjust it because I'm probably going to want to get some Gary Trent if he's going to be the starting one for the Raptors.
It's too bad FanDuel didn't put Melvin Frazier in their player pool.
LeMahieu wasn't in FanDuel's baseball player pool today.
Really?
Yeah, he homered. I don't know how he forgot about DJ LeMahieu, but he actually hit a home run today. Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like you could play Kyrie, Durant, and LeVert on DK. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, and yeah, all right. So, what else do you have?
Giannis Antetokounmpo expected to play.
What?
That's crazy.
That's so weird. It's just confusing to me. I don't get it, but okay.
So they're playing to win this game.
Weirdly enough, that contradicts everything I said about my stance about playing both of those guys together, but I like this team so much I don't really want to change it.
Look, maybe they play Giannis like 29 minutes. I mean, like, they should, if he plays, if everybody plays, they should shellac this bad Detroit team that want to lay down. They want you to score. Like, of course, again, the players are out there trying their hardest. They're going to give their best, of course. Like, but they're not going to be able to stop Giannis. Like, even so,
the Pistons have just been so good against the spread lately that during this. I mean, it's been impressive. So I don't want to bank on that.
TJ, give me a final thought as far as this game. We got to pick up the pace. We've touched on like a lot of stuff throughout the slate, like jump from game to game as is, and we're gonna knock some of these out really quickly. And we, of course, want to save time for questions. Again, if you guys have questions, throw them in the YouTube chat. Hey, YouTube, hit that like button. It helps us out with the old algorithm. We do appreciate it. Do subscribe, do turn on notifications. Crunch Time is free. Crunch Time is free tonight for NBA. Crunch Time is free going forward. The entire baseball season, you get Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist. You get Dave Potts, cheese is good. You get people like TJ. I don't know if Tim's jumping on that Crunch Time. All the experts. Derek Carty will make appearances there. You get Carty. We'll talk about the bat, of course, but you know, if you're serious about baseball, I think you should probably invest in that. Taking you guys straight up the lock. So just know going forward, Crunch Time is free. And again, tonight it's free for basketball as well. No reason to change the stream. Also put your questions in the Rotogrinders Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. Charlotte and Chicago, 235.5 is the total. It's high and it's tight. And like theoretically, there should be some good stuff here, Tim. But, you know, and there is, I guess, but I think most of it falls back, I think. You tell me.
I mean, it certainly does fall back, but I mean, I do have tons of interest in LaMelo Ball tonight. You know, this game has a sky high total and a close spread. So, I mean, you've got to have this game in your pool. Absolutely. If you're making multiple teams, I want to find a way that I can play LaMelo Ball in my single entry builds on both sites, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to because I want so much of that Nets Cavs game. But if I'm looking to maybe take a risk and, you know, hop off a piece of that game, that I'm going to be getting on LaMelo Ball. That would be about it for me for the Hornets. For the Bulls, I don't know. I mean, it's again what we talked about at the beginning of the show. I don't want to play Zach LaVine at 23% on FanDuel. I don't really want to play him on DraftKings either. So I think I'm going to pass on the Bulls, other than maybe DeMar in tournaments.
Yeah, and again, go ahead, TJ.
I feel a little differently on the Bulls standpoint. I feel like a lot of people have that mindset on LaVine of just like, yeah, he's been banged up. He's not playing like himself. But like in the last 3 weeks, he still has 54, 45, 48, 44. Like that's just in the last 2.5 weeks. He rested 2 games ago, but before that he played 34 minutes, then 38, then 34, then 36, then 38. Because of all these Q tags and a couple bad games, there's a bit of a stigma around Zach LaVine right now, and nobody really wants to play him. But this is a guy who used to be 8K, even with all 3 of these guys in the lineup, and he's 6,900. So I have interest in him. Same with Terry Rozier on the other side. That's another mid-tier guy. Not many people are going to have, I think, is a strong play. I really like the LaMelo Ball call. I wouldn't play Ball and Rozier together, but I like them both. Wouldn't play LaVine and DeRozan together, but I don't mind DeRozan. Like LaVine quite a bit. Vucevic is the third Bull that I'd rank third there. Actually, I might even have Vucevic above DeRozan tonight. 7,100. Center's not very good. I think Vucevic is a very strong center play on FanDuel tonight. And then the last 2 spots, I think you could take shots on if you're running 150, but there's probably better value. It would be Io and Kobe if we get Alex Caruso out.
I should have pointed out Vucevic also, because I do love to stream centers against the Hornets. So this is a really good matchup for him.
That would be a very easy to be different on this slate, by the way, because people are going to be punting centers. If it's not Gafford, it's going to be Howard. If it's not Gafford or Howard, it might be like, I don't know.
Speaking of punting centers too, back to the last game, I think Nick Claxton is in play. And if you're running 150 tonight, drop a couple lineups with LaMarcus Aldridge in your lineup. 3,800 on FanDuel. They just cut James Johnson. He played 16 minutes the other night. He could get some run here against the Cleveland team that runs a lot of big guys.
Oh man, you're not. If you catch me with LaMarcus Aldridge on my team tonight, seriously.
If you're single entering, if you're building 3, if you're building 20, you don't have them. But if you're building 150, get yourself a little bit of almost min price LaMarcus Aldridge, because he's a guy that could 10x it.
But he's gotta. I mean, he's got to 10x it because of all the other. 10x today is so much more accessible than 10x a month ago, which I think is important to.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but I mean, if we're already considering talking about players, like if we're considering playing Daniel Gafford and Dwight Howard tonight. There's crazier things than playing a less than 1% owned, almost min price LaMarcus Aldridge right after they just cut a guy like James Johnson.
I think they just cut Johnson because they wanted to give Edwards a playoff spot for what it's worth. It's just I think that's how that goes. But all right, fair enough. We have Aldridge projected for 9 minutes. By the way, I hear you. You just need 1 or 2, and you're above the field in that one. But that's your world, man. You're running 150 sometimes, and I get it. All right, we got to move on. My Miami Heat, they are at home versus Atlanta. 230.5 is a total. Miami has locked up the 1 spot. They have some injuries. PJ Tucker is currently out. We don't know about guys like Caleb Martin, who's questionable, and Vincent, who's questionable, and Dedmon, who's questionable. Sort of stay tuned, but as of right now, I don't like anybody in Miami. I'm not prioritizing anybody there. Again, I only run 2 main lineups, and usually get the 6 or 8 depending on. Atlanta has some incentive, right? I guess they can jump up to the 8 spot if Brooklyn happens to falter. And ideally, they want to be in the 7-8 game as opposed to the 9-10. So Atlanta's going to try. I'll throw this to you, TJ. Miami, do you agree that as of right now, again, we might get a bunch of dudes rolled out and all of a sudden, maybe Oladipo starting, who knows? But where it's at right now, I don't like anybody as a premium play or a primary play in Miami.
Trae Young is a good tournament play. Next.
Good. Okay. There you go. I like the efficiency too. We needed some efficiency. Tim?
Yeah, I mean, I looked at this game. I was like, this is an immediate cross off on both sides. And then I saw that Young ownership, and I was like, well, man, if I was running out 20 lineups and he's really going to be 5% on both sites, he's got a huge ceiling. And I don't think the Heat are going to be that motivated to stop him. So, I mean, on paper, this is an awful, awful matchup, but this is the time of year to embrace that volatility on a guy like that at that ownership. So he's the only guy for me in this game.
Also, a potential first round matchup, and I don't know how much Miami's going to want to show him. Why does Miami want to show him anything? And in our heads, we think Brooklyn's going to get the 7, and Atlanta, Charlotte, Cleveland, one of those 3 gets the 8. We'll see.
I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing pieces fall from the Heat today about resting guys.
I would not either. They have nothing to play for. It's a home game. I think it's their last home game. Who cares? Whatever. They have their mind on the playoffs, and they've had different body parts beat up throughout the season. Butler, one namely, right there, wouldn't shock me. All right, Portland and Dallas, 220.5 is the total. Dallas 20-point favorite here. Complete insanity. I'm not going to go down the list of guys on Portland that are out, but it's the same dudes as always. But Chris Dunn is now added to the list. He's also out. Kleber out for Dallas. All right, TJ, talk about the Blazers, talk about Dallas. We've kind of touched on Luka a couple of times. And it's, he's going to smash, but how long would be allowed to smash for is kind of the question.
Yeah, so just some Raptors news is coming in. Siakam is going to play, and Precious Chichi was a game time decision. But moving on to this game, there's 2 Dallas players I'm interested in, and that's Dwight Powell. I think he's an interesting, when we have a weak center position tonight, I think he's an interesting play if you think this game could stay somewhat close. And then, of course, Luka Doncic on the Dallas side. Other than that, I don't really have any interest in these Dallas guys. Those are the 2 that I think could produce big ceilings, even if these games blow out. So there are some players on this Portland side that, Dean, I feel like you didn't give enough credit for when you glossed over them so quick. And that's specifically if you want to play Luka Doncic. If you want to play Luka Doncic, Chris Dunn's been ruled out. Who will be playing at the point guard position other than Brandon Williams? If Brandon Williams is back to the starting lineup without Chris Dunn, I think he is a very good contrarian high upside play for if you want to play Luka Doncic. Another one that fits into that category would be Drew Eubanks on Fanduel, not DK, where he's still priced up. But Fanduel, he's seen a big price decrease, and he's back down to $6K. So if you want to play Luka, I think that's reasonable to play Eubanks and Brandon Williams over on Fanduel. And then if you're not interested in a run back with Luka, you just want to get a small little piece of this game, you think it's going to be a blowout, an interesting value with the power forward position over on Fanduel, I think is Reggie Perry. I'm going to check right now with what his price is on DK. Yeah, $3,900 on DK. I think he's somewhat interesting there too, but more so on FanDuel where the stocks are worth more. This is a guy that just goes out there and is wildly active just because his name is Reggie and he hustles around all the time. Tuttle and I were joking earlier today that he's Reggie Evans 2.0. But like that's kind of what he just goes out there, he gets rebounds and he gets steals and he gets blocks.
Okay.
And so like in 21 minutes last game, he had 5 fouls, but he also had like 30 plus, almost 40 fantasy points. And so if he gets extended run, if this is a blowout, I think he's somewhat interesting from the Portland side.
So my issue with Brandon Williams is the price is not tumbled enough. It's also like just a bad matchup in general. It's just a bad matchup against Dallas. His minutes have been all over the place. They gave him a fake injury when they're in a tankathon game against OKC. That made a lot of sense because you got to match tank versus tank. So if you want to use the logic that, well, they're just going to let him go because they're going to lose it. The tank's going to take care of itself organically. Okay. And if they're down by 20, like you should just let him play, right? Like I think you should. I don't know if they will. They haven't played him. You know, he maybe he had an ankle, maybe he didn't, but 17 minutes last time out, but 30 before that. And again, a game in the middle where he missed. But like, even if he plays 32 minutes versus Dallas at 6.6K, like, what do you need him to get you, TJ?
And so it's only interesting on the lineups you're playing Luka. And so it's more so about wanting to get 70 or 80 plus from Luka, and you're thinking this maybe is a 5 to 10 point game going down the wire. And if it is, someone on Portland had to go off, because if it's a close game, there's no other way. Like somebody had to do it. And so maybe it's Brandon Williams, maybe it's Drew Eubanks. This is not the most likely scenario, but it's a scenario that 5 games ago, Brandon Williams had 55 fantasy points. And so if you're not playing him if he plays 32, but if it's maybe he plays 36, and again, this is if you're playing at least like you're in the 20 lineup range before you get to any Brandon Williams mini Dallas Portland stacks. But it's the type of stack that could win you the first prize, $30,000 in that $9.99 on FanDuel tonight, because not many people are going to do it. And it's the type of thing that if Portland keeps it close, somebody had to do something. And if you don't like Brandon Williams, and if he doesn't end up in the starting lineup, if they're like, no, we're kind of just done with this guy now, that probably means Ben McLemore is going to be the starting point guard. And all of a sudden he becomes interesting then.
Are they going to give Ben McLemore at 35 minutes though? Like there's no
without Dunn, who else is the one?
Do they care about the one? Like, do they care what position?
But that's if they don't care. So one of those two is probably going to be getting run out for mid 30s minutes.
Yeah. Tim, chime in here. What do you have? Feel free to give your thoughts.
I mean, really, it's just if I'm multi-entering, I really like to take on Reggie Perry. I think he's the type of guy that can win you that $9.99 $30K on FanDuel. He's the type of guy that I would definitely sprinkle in maybe 5 lineups if I was 150 maxing. I do like Drew Eubanks a little bit on FanDuel. But other than that, I am out on this Trailblazers team. I do get what TJ's saying about Brandon Williams, but I think that because that's a good way of maximizing your Luka raw points. But I think that they still end up just spreading the minutes around and not doing anything crazy and giving somebody like 34 minutes. So I think it's just Reggie Perry for me in tournaments.
Yeah, and it's to confirm, it's a large field GPP play, and he's definitely nowhere close to an optimal play. It's just the type of thing of it's a guy who's shown a 50-point ceiling before when he has the opportunity, and it's a spot that tonight there's a chance he could have that.
By the way, we will field your baseball questions. 5-game baseball slate going down. We're happy to answer those. I know TJ did some baseball research. Tim did some baseball research. I'm playing.
Tony Kemp just hit a single to put me back up above min cash, baby. We're rolling.
Oh, Tony, dude, that Tony Kemp is that's not a TJ play. Tony Kemp. I know he's a salary saver and whatever, but that's. I'm
telling you, I would be doing phenomenally tonight if I if I had Chad Pinder over him. I'm currently in my big tournament. I'm currently 1.2 out of first place. And that's not even the Kemp team, so never mind. We're good there. We had a good start to the baseball season here already.
You got some Schwarber?
Cheese my best team actually doesn't have Schwarber, because it had Rizzo in that spot, and now that Nick Castellanos finally got a run, and now Hoskins is up to bat, I got a good looking team here. I'm at 140, and I put it in a lot of small field contests. So
you said something about Cheese. Does he have a team up top as well?
Cheese got me on Philly. Cheese was all over Philly today on Crunch Time. It was basically like, yes, other people will like Philly. You should like Philly, but you should like them more than everybody else and get on them more. And yeah, they got the most runs on the early slate. So
they might be the most stackable team in baseball, I think. They got the catcher if you want to play the catcher, Schwarber, Harper, Castellanos, Rhys Hoskins, even the cheapy Stott is a nice little prospect. Looks like he's overtaken Baum. All right, let's talk about Phoenix versus Utah. 228 is the total. Phoenix is a 2-point dog here. I think they're all coming back, right? Everybody's coming back. Yeah, Booker, Paul, Ayton, they're all good to go. They got embarrassed last time out. Utah should be fine. Also, Mitchell back from his rest. But Tim, it's everybody's playing. They're all kind of priced where they should be priced, and there's no discounts based upon you're priced to play 22 minutes. Now you're gonna play 35. So nothing says we should play anybody here outside of variance happens.
Yeah, I mean, if this would be an X out spot for me for both teams. There's absolutely no value. Everybody's priced efficiently. The Suns have nothing to play for. I mean, they don't really rest guys, but I also can see them not playing their full amount of minutes. I can see Booker playing 30 minutes or Paul playing 25 minutes or something like that. I mean, they're definitely going to play, but I don't know if they're going to play all the minutes they can handle. So I guess you could play Donovan Mitchell in tournaments, but I really have no interest.
TJ?
On FanDuel, you can, if you're playing 150, you can keep Booker and Ayton in your pools. Ayton's 6,200 on FanDuel. Booker's 8,800. Same thing with Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. You can keep them in your pool if you're running lots of lineups. But this is an X for me as well.
This game is not an X. The very last game that I get to cover for the NBA season, of course, it has to be the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Lakers. 225 is the total. Lakers are 5-point dogs here. No, 5-point favorites here. TJ, you're all over the place, man. You're like that. What's that guy's name? The Weeknd gift from the Super Bowl. Just kind of moving all over the place.
I have ADHD. I'm not in my own house. I'm in an uncomfortable spot. I got restless legs, and I really have to pee. So that's where we're at right now.
I appreciate you powering through. If you want to sneak aside, Joe Buck once called a touchdown while peeing. You ever hear him tell that story before? He was peeing in a garbage can.
I have not heard that story, but yeah, you might as well throw it to Tim first for this one.
Go ahead. Feel free to relieve yourself. All right, Tim, Lakers, OKC, no LeBron, no Davis, no Westbrook. Carmelo Anthony is sick. He's not playing basketball tonight. We know the OKC deal. I'm not going to go down the list. I'm not going to predict who they're going to start. We're projecting. It's going to be Simpson, Veit, Krejci, Georges, I assume he's Greek, Jalen Horde, Isaiah Roby. That's our current projections. Maybe Frazier draws a start. Waters has seen moments of playing too good. I imagine Poku does not sniff the court. We shall see. But the star of this game is THT, and then Malik Monk is his co-star. And start with the Lakers, I suppose, because they're really. I think I'm just locking in THT and whatever. If you want to fade them, have at it. But I'm not.
Yeah, I really would not recommend fading THT on either site, no matter how many lineups you're making. I think he's as close to a lock button play that you can have at this time of year. If this were a scenario happening 3 weeks ago, I would put him in 150 out of 150. This time of year, things are a little funky. If you don't want to do that, I guess don't. But I think that is your edge, that if he comes in at 60% in a $10 tournament, you want to be at 100. So I think he is your lock button play of the day. I just don't see a route that he's going to bust today.
The stuff we play, by the way, 60%. I wish it was 60%. There's no.
Well,
way.
right, yeah, he's not going to be 60% any single entry stuff. But I mean, really though, if you're playing that $9.99 or whatever it is on DK, I mean, 60%, be 100%. You know, I mean, that's your
60% of the time works every time. Is that
right? I mean, that's your edge, though. You know, I mean, that's your edge is that 40% of lineups aren't going to have him. So
I agree completely. Like, he's a guy in the past that he's shown that at the end of the year when they rest players, he goes off. And it was the weird reason that held them back from trading him for Kyle Lowry or trading for DeMar DeRozan and Buddy Hield and making an actual play for a championship contender again. Like the Lowry one from the Raptors one, that was the most mind-blowing one for me, because is there a better point guard to fit with LeBron James than someone who just wants to shoot threes, pass, and play defense? Like, doesn't need the ball in his hands. He just wants to shoot and then get the ball movement. So
is there a worse one than Westbrook?
Literally no. And so yeah, that was mind-blowing to me. But anyways, it was because THT in these situations just absolutely goes off in nothing games when they give him almost 40 minutes. And so I agree, he's an almost lock play for me. Malik Monk, fantastic play as well. Dwight Howard, if he starts, is a fantastic play, but keep an eye on that starting lineup. I think anyone who starts for the Lakers is a solid play. I agree with what Tim was saying earlier. If there's somebody I'd want to get underweight on both sides, it'd be Stanley Johnson, even though like he's just so cheap on DraftKings at 3,700. That still is a tough fade for me. But on FanDuel, where he's a little bit more expensive, he's 3,500 on FanDuel. His price went down. Geez, yeah, that's gonna be tough to get away from. I thought he was still above 4K there.
He's a part of that three-stud team. Yeah.
Anybody who starts is a good play for the Lakers.
They just signed Gabriel, by the way, and like, you know, OKC doesn't play terribly big. The interesting one, like Howard could be really good, but it is possible. We've seen him play alongside each other as well, but it is possible they give Gabriel more of a look than Howard because, you know,
I'm not playing Howard tonight. I would be underweight on Howard tonight. I know that he could completely burn at me, but I don't know.
So my lineup had 5,300 at the 4,300 at the small forward, power forward, or center position on FanDuel. And so I'm currently leaving it at Howard because I'm fine with playing him if he starts, and I have the flexibility to switch it to a Gabriel, or because of the amount of people I have in that late game, adjust to something else if the starting lineup's wonky.
As of right now, rank your top like 4 Lakers, TJ.
Horton Tucker, Monk. Then it just depends on the starters. For cash or single entry, it'd probably be Stanley Johnson or Dwight Howard if he starts. But for a tournament flyer, I really love Tuttle's Mason Jones call.
Yeah, Mason Jones scored 38 points last night in the G League. So shout out to him. And I think he's actually questionable for the record. I don't think he's officially even in or available. Same question, Tim.
He doesn't we don't have any, FanDuel doesn't have any tags. We don't have any tags on him on RG. So I think he's just good to go.
Is he in the player pool? Yes. Okay. He is in the player pool. All right. So to make sure.
So it's THT definitely, Monk definitely. And then I think it's probably Gabriel and probably Stanley Johnson, I guess, but I'm not going to play Stanley.
Yeah.
And so I honestly think basically the whole team is in play other than Reeves on FanDuel, not in play. He is on DK. I'm not playing Augustine. I'm not playing Ellington. I'm not playing Avery Bradley. Other than that, I think this whole team's in play. And Bazemore, I'm not playing either.
Hit the OKC side, TJ.
OKC side, again, it's a lot going to depend on the starting lineup, but I think my favorite plays for the OKC side, number 1 is going to be Jalen Horde. On DK, he's even cheaper than he is on FanDuel. He's probably my favorite. Second would probably be Simpson on DK. On DK, Simpson's probably number 1, sorry. On FanDuel, where he's more expensive, though, he's a little bit lower. But on DK, it goes Simpson 1 for me, Horde number 2, Waters 3, Roby 4. And on FanDuel, it's Horde number 1, Roby number 2, and getting my pricing back up here, and probably Simpson number 3.
Little bit hesitant on Lindy Waters. They've been pushing his minutes down. They let him go in the entire fourth quarter last game because they were down by like 30. so they just let him play. But we saw it before. He came in, he hit 2 threes, get out of the game. You're not supposed to do that. You get with the program. And the Lakers are a formidable tank opponent. Not that the Lakers are trying to tank, to be clear. Like, they lost their pick, but they just are just bad. So that's just how that goes. Same deal here, Tim, as far as OKC. How would you power rank the Thunder players?
Yeah, on DK, Simpson's definitely number one. Then Horde for me, then probably Frazier, and then Krejci. Fanduel. I guess they did add Melvin Frazier to the player pool, so I guess I'm sorry that I missed that. I didn't see him in there earlier. So he's small forward eligible on FanDuel for 4,100. I want to find the 600 to play him over Stanley, but either way, it's Sampson. It's probably I don't know. It's Simpson on FanDuel, then Frazier, then Krejci, and then probably Horde.
Do you have anything built, Tim? Like, I know you're running one lineup. Do you have anything built? And I'm curious. Okay, so what do you
I was expecting a lot more. I was expecting a lot more news, Dean, and we're just not getting it. So
yeah. I'm just thinking, like, in your head, what do you think you'll have, like 2 and 2 as far as players in this game, like in your single entry?
Yes.
In my head, it's 2 and 2, but I mean, I don't. I'm not going to hold you to it, obviously.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely going to be Monk and THD and Simpson. I mean, I've got those guys locked in.
Horde looks pretty solid too. But yeah, and then Georges is man, it's going to be. But then of course at some point, raw points are going to factor in also.
I didn't even start building because I was expecting big Bucks news, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen.
We got to
win. So full disclosure with my build, where I'm struggling is I can only play 4 of Horde, Taylor Horton Tucker, Karis LeVert, Gary Trent Jr., and Malik Monk. I can only play 4 of those 5, and I want to play 5 of them.
You think Achua's going to play, TJ? I know it's a different question, but
if he does, I'm currently hoping he doesn't, because if he doesn't, then I can make the beautiful lineup that I want to make, and I can slot it in with Chris Boucher as the final piece.
Yeah, Boucher's playable either way, but he becomes like a monster.
I was going to say, I would almost rather have Precious play, and Boucher's ownership would be way down.
True. It's just if Precious plays, we still might end up getting mid-20s for Boucher. Whereas if he doesn't, it could end up being like a legit mid-30s. Like, it's a wild bump. It's not just like a small rotation bump because of the crazy minutes that Nick Nurse plays his guys.
And I guess it depends too if you think Boucher gets mop-up duty if it's a blowout.
Yeah,
yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not sure if he does.
He gets like half a mop-up, right? Like he'll probably, and then eventually he'll come out for like Steve Mikalik or Yuta Watanabe. Or Banga, like those kind of guys, but he'll mop for a bit, I think, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Some questions we have pulled here. Again, there's still time to fire some off. Evan Mobley officially will play as suspected. One of the questions regarding that, they're asking about Kevin Love if Mobley is out. Well, Mobley's in. Is anybody enthused about Love? Like, if he's on, they'll probably give him some run, but
not anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at as well, too. TJ, how do you compare Gafford with Dwight Howard, which is a really good question. And I think they're projecting really close to each other, but both of them have some sort of fragility to it, I think.
I like Howard better, except if he doesn't start, obviously the answer is Gafford. And so you're not going to know that in time. If you have the positional flexibility, I like Howard better because it gives me the opportunity to switch to Wendy and Gabriel if I need to, because right now I have other players in small forward, power forward in that spot in my lineup too. If you're not going to have that flexibility for if Howard doesn't start, I'd probably rather pull the trigger on Gafford.
You got to take on that, Tim?
That last part of his answer, I completely agree with. If you're not worried about flexibility, then I prefer Gafford. But if you are concerned about flexibility, then it has to be Howard. So, I mean, that last part of that answer was spot on.
Have him in the utility spot if you're playing on DK.
Yeah.
That's the hope, at least.
Well, but Gafford locks at 7.
Well, I'm saying if you're playing Howard, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. You got to play. Yeah, you got to play Howard in your utility spot tonight.
Are we sure about Gafford getting 20 minutes? Yeah, we're not certain. I don't know. It's kind of a guess. I'm
sure he's going to get 20 minutes.
Yeah, he'll get 20. I think they're asking if he's going to play more. And he may. I don't know how much more.
I think he gets around 24, 25, but
and so the reason I like Howard better right now is because my worst case scenario is if he doesn't start is something like a Howard and Horde to Roby and Stanley Johnson, something like that.
Oh, I just realized my battery is down to 7%. So if I get some reason I'm not charging, but if I get zapped and if I holler, my bad. We're going to be relieved in just a second. Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth. They're talking basketball, but I think there's something lurking out there weather-wise as far as the Mets. So he'll give some clarity on that. Of course, Andy Means taking you guys home. Crunch time. Three today, 3 going forward for baseball. You're going to want to stay tuned for that all the way up to lock, sometimes beyond lock. Danilo Galinari. We didn't really talk about him, Tim. Do we like Danilo Galinari?
No, I have no interest in any of those pieces.
Did somebody just say yes?
I said yes because my guy Briston Scott just hit Segura home, so I got bumped to first place.
There you go. Yeah, the rookie.
Yeah,
nicely done. All right, take that down.
Hey.
So yeah, potential blowout minutes for Dallas. Dallas super thin in the front court. Cleaver and Chris out. Small ball with Moses Wright. Like TJ, that seems like so much work. And if everything cracks your way, he's still going to get just the same amount of minutes as like these other guys we kind of know are going to get so many minutes. You understand what I'm saying? That seems like too much work for me.
I agree. If when you're taking shots on random guys tonight, make sure it's a random guy that if it's a cheap one, you think can 10x. Like this is not the night that we are trying to get hopefully he gets 28 minutes and I can get 20 points type of night. Like you are shooting for 30 to 40 from all of your guys there. And so I think we just lost Dean. So I'll try and keep us rolling here until we get.
I think I'm back. Am I still here?
He's back.
All right. Yeah. I think I'm actually charging now. We should be good to go. Hopefully we're good to go. We'll see. If not, again, the crunch time guys are. What's up?
Yeah. So we got no video from you, Dean.
That's whatever. Last minute of the show. We'll be fine, I suppose.
I guess.
Yeah, dude, let them on in. We got Roth coming in. We got Meansy coming in. I believe Will should be coming in. Chief Justice, you guys know him, talking about all his props, giving some tournament takes as well tonight. I'm trying to see if we knocked out most of the questions. Roth, are you with us?
What's happening?
What's going on, dude? I had some technical difficulties over here, but I think I'm powering on through. This is going to be, we're going to have I don't want it to be like an awkward conversation because we're going to be talking to each other every single day. We're going forward like the next, baseball season for like 3, 4, 5 minutes, whatever it is. We got to come up with like a nice little gimmick, some sort of scenario, some sort of game, some sort of a bridge. Yeah. I don't know. We got to work on something as we do the handoff.
No, I'm awkward with the handoff because there's so many people. There's like 6 people. I don't know who's talking when. Like I just kind of shut my mouth and let everybody else handle it.
It's been a long time no see, Roth. I missed you.
I know. Good to see TJ. We, for those who are unaware, we did the crunch time this morning for baseball, and now we are reunited again. And that's what you get if you sign up for Rotogrinders. You get all day content, baby. Mornings, afternoons, evenings. We'll do a midnight show if you want it.
And I'm putting TJ on the spot. I'm putting TJ on the spot. Spell Giannis's last name.
ANTNEKO.
You lose.
OUNMPO.
And TETOUN. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad nobody put me on the spot. Here's an important question.
I need to be able to write it. I need to see it. But as Andy knows, I spelt it wrong twice on the expert survey
today. Means, are you just blackout drunk right now as this is your final show of the
not nearly as much as I want to be. It's been a long day, man. I'm way behind where I want to be. So I got some catching up to do for myself where I set the bar.
Right. Okay. Well, I will allow you at any point in this show, if you just want to get up and go get beer, wine, or liquor, you can just leave the seat just to go do that. I don't think anyone will mind. You've earned it. As he sips the wine.
Good luck with the chaos tonight, fellas. And make sure you're tuning into all the crunch times because MLB crunch time, it's free. Cheese got us on the Phillies, and it looks like I'm going to take down the tournament because of it. So go Cheese, go.
Yeah, actually, you said as we were kind of closing out crunch time, you told Cheese, you're like, I was on, I don't know if it was the White Sox or someone else, but you're like, and I've basically pivoted everything to the Phillies, and I guess that's worked out all right.
Yeah, it's going pretty well so far.
Yes. Turns out.
How many runs tonight, TJ, for your Blue Jays?
7.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna be more ambitious. Is that enough? Is that gonna take it down?
Well, I only got a 3-man Jays stack tonight. My full stack is the Braves, so that's all they need.
Your lineup's already set. Look at you, man.
Heck yeah,
That's
so
a
much content.
Good combo,
It's gonna
TJ. You're a smart man.
Best day full. I'm ready to go. I got to build my NBA lineup now, so the MLB's got to be set.
Already, Roth. I'm expecting a forecast as far as the Mets and the Nationals. Is there something out there for us?
Yeah, we might as well get that knocked out while most of us are still hanging out. It looks pretty good. I mean, there's an increasing chance for rain late. As I look at radar right now, there's nothing imminent. There's nothing ominous. But the later we go in the game, the more likely a healthy shower or even maybe a weak thunderstorm pops up. The bottom line is I wouldn't fade it. I wouldn't fade it for bats because if there is a delay, they'll be able to finish it. And I wouldn't fade it for pitchers because if there is a delay, it's likely that would be in the latter half of the game if it happens at all. Now, I can't promise you we won't see a delay earlier, but there's nothing that would make me think that will happen. So I wouldn't fade it for anything in any format. How's that?
All right, we're going to step aside and get out of here. Do appreciate that, Roth. And of course, if anything gets updated, I'm sure you'll be all over that as well. Just want to say thanks for everybody watching the show throughout the year. We're ending, the whoever's left still grinding basketball. It's amazing. Playoffs are going to be awesome. We're going to have RG content for that as well, obviously. But again, baseball going forward. Super excited about that. Thanks to producer Steve on behalf of TJ, who may be gone by now. I'm not even certain. He might be.
He dipped out.
Yeah, he's figuring. He did the Irish goodbye. He kind of said he was leaving. He insinuated. And for Tim, who may or may not be here also. I'm not watching the video, but thanks for watching and enjoy some more basketball talk and baseball going forward. And Andy, shout out to Andy for all his content this year. Writing that article is thankless to some degree, I'm sure. And congratulations on making that interesting 5 days a week, because that is harder than I imagine we assume it is.
I appreciate that. It is not fun a lot of the days, but just got to get it done. People want it, so got to get it done. And we're gonna upgrade it in some way next year. I've already the wheels are already moving on how we're gonna make that better. So if anyone has any feedback on it as well, it's gonna be really good. I just don't quite know what it is yet. It's like kind of on the tip of my tongue. We're gonna kind of combine I think we're gonna combine the old core plays, the article from this year, maybe that blog, kind of just make a living document of some sort. It's coming. We're noodling.
Yeah.
Final shout out, kudos to Mean Dean. Been grinding Grinderslive basketball all season long. And now you're like me, right? You're just rolling into baseball. Nothing changes for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I should say, Andy was talking about, it's not a lot of fun and perspective's important. And I'm not digging ditches, man. I realize how thankful and how lucky I am to be able to do this for a living and not changing lives, not curing cancer, I'm not delivering you food, not helping, but hopefully you're helping you out this way in your life. And as miserable as it is to try to break down the OKC Thunder minutes on game 82 or 81, whatever it is, it could be so much worse. And I'm very thankful to have this job and this platform. But perspective is very, very important. And they're just kind of throwing it out there. But all right, you guys take it over. I'll be watching. Good luck. Okay. Take something down tonight.
Be good, Dean. See you.
Thanks, Dean.
Likewise. I'll be good.
All right. That was our best transition yet. That was the least awkward transition we've had yet. I feel like we're improving.
What doesn't make it awkward is when you guys were talking about how awkward it is. That wasn't awkward.
Well, you just got to embrace it. We're struggling with it. We've never done this 6-person handoff before. We're getting used to it. It's a new thing.
We rely on you, Roth. You're the TV wizard.
I don't know about all that, but yes, I am. That's true. Hey, we have got Chief. You're muted, my man.
I know. I was kind of talking to myself because what happened was Mean said, "Roth, you're the TV wizard," and I said, "Yeah." I was talking out loud to myself, I just saw Roth do and then you were like, "Hey, you're talking to yourself," and I'm like, "Yeah, let me just tell you guys."
Yeah.
So I saw you in shirt and tie for the Discord promo. I said, "You're a gentleman and a scholar."
Yes.
Look at this.
You
guy.
didn't even know he was on the Weather Channel yesterday.
Yeah, I've been busy, man.
My gosh.
Yeah, I was on the Weather Channel. I was on Fox Weather, multiple hits. Bro Bible. I don't really know what Bro Bible is, but I was on it.
I don't know what that is.
It's busy this time of year. There's a lot of PR stuff. But hey, you know what? We have babbled and skedaddled and stalled long enough. It is time to talk some hoops. The final crunch time. Other than
I knew that was coming. That's good.
Yeah. Means this is great. Literally, I made the switch to Fanduel. Our show is sponsored by Fanduel. Crunch Time sponsored by Fanduel. Maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I have been winning at like a 95% clip, and I'm not bullshitting. And it's part because, I don't know, you give great, amazing information. And I think it's part because late season, there are more advantages because there's more weird stuff happening that takes more time to figure out. And I feel like that has been part of the reason I've been crushing it. Do you feel the same way, Means?
I mean, like I always say the same thing. The more news, the better, as far as I'm concerned, because the more stuff that's going on, the more decisions you have to make, the more people freak out and be like, wait, should I still play that guy I liked earlier today? Or is this guy better? Or the more stuff we have to go through, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's coming to fruition for you on FanDuel, it sounds like.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I just chime in on this?
Please.
If that's okay?
Yeah.
So I've made quadruple, triple, 10 times more on FanDuel over the years than I have on DraftKings. And that's mainly because, for whatever reason, my brain has typically worked better for FanDuel. Just, I don't know, the way it's set up, and especially when we didn't have late swap. Like, that was probably a good chunk because there was just a different thought process behind it. And then FanDuel has honestly switched up the game so much year to year. Like, Means, do you remember the year we had dropped the lower score?
Yeah.
And it was some,
of course.
Yeah, the fun year. It was the fun.
Yeah. So there was just different things we could do to like get edges. And I mean, for as much as people say, well, they don't like FanDuel, and I don't really play as much for other reasons with FanDuel, in terms of their product, I've actually always liked it a lot. And I've always felt like I've been in the, like, not in crowd, because DraftKings has seemed to be more popular. But FanDuel has always been good to me, man.
Well, FanDuel has been great to me, great to us, the show. By the way, check out the FanDuel 150K Friday NBA layup contest. 30K to first. That's $9.99 to enter if it hasn't filled already. There's also a 50K one that's only $5.55. A lot of great single entry tournaments as well, which I'm all about. I don't mess around with those big ones. I like some single entry. Means you got to remind me what font. What was that? What does that mean? What was
it was the FanDuel punt. The FanDuel punt. That was the word combo.
F came from? Was FanDuel?
Yeah, FanDuel punt. Yep.
That is a portmanteau. It is when you take two words and combine them into one. Like FanDuel.
No, it's a wombo.
It's a what?
A wombo, a word combo.
I've never heard of a wombo, but yes, a wombo is also a portmanteau. But yes, same idea. Hey, all right, we've goofed around, we've dilly dallied, we've done the shenanigans. Means, what are we doing? How are you going to keep my streak alive?
Well, Roth, I do believe I'll zoom out in a second, but I do believe every time I say this, it usually goes well for you. And I feel really good about the FanDuel slate again. So
yeah. You're going to say something like, I feel really good about this. It's straightforward. And I have 5 guys tagged. Something like that.
Well, I have 2, but I'll be very specific on who I like when I get there. But I do really like the FanDuel build. When zooming out, it's weird. I thought today was going to be madness, and it really hasn't been. I thought the Bucks were going to arrest a bunch of people. I thought the Raptors were going to arrest a bunch of people. And the Raptors have OG out again. They have Van Vliet out again. But the Bucks are saying everyone's playing. So I'll try to go through like motivations and stuff as we get there. But I'm sure at this point in the day, everyone's probably consumed all of that ad nauseum. Like they pretty much know who's in it and who's out of it and who's maybe playing for it and who's not. So I'll probably touch on a lot of that stuff as I go through. So let's dive into FanDuel. So it's going to be a lot of Lakers. If you played a lot of Lakers last night, you probably did well. They ruled out everybody. Last night, they ruled out everybody again.
Some people were challenging you on THT last night, and
how'd that go?
He did all right. I think he did all right last night.
Is what was that? Man, what was he like? 20x, 15x, 18x? I think that went pretty well. And he's obviously one of the guys I have tagged. I've mock tagged again, and that's it. But I'm going to talk through some guys I really like. And the first guy I really like is that point guard. And that's Kyrie. It's only 9'4". He shot 36% from the field last game and had 50 Fanduel points. Why? Because, he had some good rebound and assist numbers. Rebounds were a little above his head. But he played 42 and a half minutes. He's played, look at that, 44, the last 44, 44, 40, 42. I think the Atlanta game was only OT. Like, he's played the full second half, as has KD, in 2 of their last 3 games. We have him at 39. Like, it's just this is the only game that teams, like, you can identify as 2 teams in the same game that want to win. These guys are fighting for playoff seeding. You do not want to go down to that 9-10 game in the play-in seeding. So Kyrie's probably my favorite spin on the FanDuel slate. He's only 9'4". It's like 10 something on DK. So he's one of the first guys I'm putting in. It's going to be one of those situations too where Luka's really easy to get. Whether you want to get him is kind of up to you. They're still playing for seeding, but they're literally 20-point favorites. 20-point favorites. Like, that is just absurd. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a number that high, honestly.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, it's the whole trope of, well, if they blow them out, Luka probably has a lot to do with it. The Trailblazers are so bad that, like, Dorian Finney-Smith and, like, Trey Burke and, like, a whole bunch of the players who don't have, like, offensive game necessarily for the Mavs could, like, blow this team out. So the worry is that they do a lot of that damage when Luka's not in, and then, you're getting 27 minutes from him tonight instead of like 30, mid-30s. So I'm fine with him, but I'm not going to tell you that you have to play him. Who I do think you probably should play, 2 guys that are shooting guard, small forward, are Trent and RJ Barrett. Trent because Fred VanVleet and OG are out, and RJ Barrett because he plays for Tibbs. They have nothing to play for, and it hasn't mattered. They haven't had anything to play for a while. He played like 44 minutes last game, like just absurd amount of minutes for a team that is playing for nothing that should be losing. And the matchup's really good, and he's only 7'6". So he's one of the next guys I think you should be putting in there. Cheaper stuff, Zach LaVine, he's 6'9". Like the OKC guys are fine, like Krejci, Lundy Waters, Simpson. Simpson's probably my preferred guy. Like, if I'm picking 2 guys I definitely would want to be playing here, it'd be like I would go Kyrie and I would go Simpson, and then I would move. Then you could go like Trent, Barrett, and like honestly, like seriously, Roth, you want like 5 guys tag, like that's a hell of a start right there. Kyrie, Simpson, Monk, Barrett, THT, Trent. As he gets his pen and paper, is like, oh yeah, let me write that. Oh yeah, let's write that down. Okay, yeah.
But then I can't play Luka, which I already decided I'm definitely playing Luka. But okay,
you can play Luka. So that's pretty much it for guard, and small forward shouldn't take too long, just because a handful of those guys I just talked about have that small forward eligibility. The one guy who's going to project really well because of how cheap he is Stanley Johnson on the Lakers. He played a decent amount last night, but just did okay because he's Stanley Johnson. Like, if he doesn't shoot well, because he doesn't shoot a lot, like it's a struggle. But he's so cheap, and they're so shorthanded, and the matchup is so good that you can play him. Like, you don't have to play him, but he's like, we'll talk about like where else you're going to spend up when we get to forward. But like, if you're spending up for like a KD or a Giannis, like you can probably, he's pretty easy to get, but you don't have to. Cheaper stuff, Wizards, Rui and Denny Avdia. I kind of prefer Avdia personally. Yeah, that's about it. Like, I'll mention Jalen Horde too, but he's more appealing over on DK. So let's go to power forward. And I'm saving these guys for power forward just because you're most likely to play them here. But Giannis and KD. So I thought for sure that Giannis was going to play, or not going to play, especially after they said he was questionable. So he played like 38 minutes last night. I'm a little worried that if this game is even close to sniffing garbage time, that they're not going to play him a lot.
Mhm.
So the projections, in no way agree with this. And I kind of referenced it this morning when talking about him and Luka, but I think you just play KD, man. He's played 40 minutes plus in basically a lot of these games too. And I mean, they're decent favorites, but I would much rather play the guy who he's literally, like I said, he's literally played the second half, all of the second half in 2 of the last 3 games. I would much rather play the guy I'm like, this guy's probably playing 40 plus minutes tonight, as opposed to the guys I could see him just playing 30 tonight, So projections disagree with it. You can do what you want. If it's me, I would probably play KD, and you could probably get one of these guys pretty easily. So I wanted to talk about those 2 guys just briefly. Cheap stuff, Precious Achiuwa. I think he is a good, I think he's a good cheap play. I'd much rather play him than Stanley Johnson. If you're picking between cheap stuff and prioritizing, I'd much rather play Precious. And then I mentioned the Wizards guys like Rui. Chris Boucher is fine, but we can move on to center.
Did you mention Obi Toppin?
I did not mention Obi. He's fine. His price is coming up a little bit, but he's fine. He's 6'5", especially if it's where you land as your last piece. Let me see where exactly he lands on our projection of stuff. Yeah, he's kind of far down. It's just mainly because he's 6'5". He's priced up a little bit, but when we're talking about minutes, he certainly fits that mold too. So not someone I'm going out of my way to get, but if you land there in a 2v2 or your last piece, I would be fine with him for sure. Yeah, he's only power forward eligible. I thought he might have center. Let's go to the center. Precious has center eligibility. You're going to have a real tough decision here as well, Dwight Howard and Daniel Gafford. So the Dwight thing, he crushed last night. Not debating that at all. I have a little bit of concern that they wouldn't just go back to playing him a bunch of minutes tonight because he doesn't really fit the mold of guy we're developing for our future. So they didn't seem to care last night. So the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it's the last game of the night. So let me just double check actually when I'm looking at it. You're probably going to have options just because of who's playing in this game. If you get there, maybe not. Yeah, you don't have options actually. So just be careful. In cash, he projects so well, so it's hard to get away from him. But I think it might be a tad too risky for cash, especially when you have a Daniel Gafford there. You can play Precious. You can play Chris Boucher. You have options in this range that are similar. So I'd probably play Precious at center and not Dwight. And I would not play DeAndre Ayton in cash games, I don't think. We have no idea. Again, we talked about this with the Thunder. You have to think of what the range of these minutes outcomes are. They've clinched the 1 seed. I have no idea what they're going to do going forward. I think they will play this game pretty normally. Monty said they want to keep their guys in game shape, get ready for the playoffs. It would make sense that they play this relatively normally and then rest guys over the weekend for their last game. I don't know if they're going to do that. That would make sense. But he could play 24 minutes tonight. I don't know. So just be careful. I don't think it's necessary to play guys like that in cash games when you have no idea what these coaches are thinking in that regard. So I would much rather play Vooch, who they do have incentive to win still, or I'd much rather play some of these cheap guys I've talked about. So I've talked long enough. Your guys there.
Okay. I actually had a couple more questions. I'm looking at Mobley. I think he's back, or at least he's active.
He is back.
Any interest there? He's cheap. Do we have any idea what his minutes?
6'4", yep. He's right there with Obi. I'd be fine with him. I got to imagine they're going to try to play him a fair amount tonight just because they need to get him ready for the playoffs. So, yeah, I'd be fine with it. He's a young guy. I doubt he'd have too many limitations. So if you land there too, I'd be fine. To your point, I think I would rather play Obi. Obi just seems a little safer. So if you have that 100, I would play Obi.
Yeah. And then the last name that I saw as I just kind of look at the tags here is somebody had Jalen Horde tagged. And that guy, his price has come up, but is he still in the same role where he can just drop 50 points?
Yep.
Then I might have a little interest there.
There you go.
He does that sometimes. Okay. Excellent stuff. Means as always, chug some wine, go get more wine. I'm going to talk to Chief here and we'll figure out some GPP plays. Chief, what's your game plan here over on FanDuel?
Well, I don't think anybody wants to play Kevin Porter Jr. and he just keeps crushing and nobody's playing him. But I mean, these Houston guys are all playing 40 minutes and I can't ignore 40 minutes. I just can't. And so while they are priced up, I mean, if Kevin Porter Jr. goes for 60 tonight at 8,400, I'm gladly going to accept that. Let me just say, I am kicking myself because I came on this show the last time and said, oh, you need to make sure you play Hassan Whiteside. And I meant to play him in my single entry, and he goes off for 40, and I had JaVale McGee stuck in there, and I was so frustrated. And it cost me big time. It cost me. I pulled it up, and I said, oh, I should be doing pretty well. And I said, I didn't change JaVale McGee. Like my single entry. Yeah. I said, oh, God, that just frustrated me so bad. Anyway, just want to put that out there. Secondarily, I think, when it comes to some of these guys that you must play, like THT, like let's not overthink this. I know Means has already talked about it, but I want to just reinforce that the right thing to do is to hit the lock button. And I know we hit the lock button on who was it, Campaign the last time, and it didn't quite work out. I get it, but I just don't see a reason to when he's facing OKC and their limited staff. And then I guess you're going to have to sit around again and see what OKC is going to do in terms of their starters. I'm assuming it's going to be similar to what they did the other night. But if so, I do think Xavier, whichever it is, I don't know the pronunciation, but I do think he's in play at 4,700. We've got him at 24%, but I still like him there as well. There was one other person that I thought was pivotal here. Oh, Vucevic. And I talked about him the last time, but Vuce against Charlotte is not like Vuce against Boston. Like this is like the nut matchup. So if you were going to play him, we got him at 20%. So, but I just want to reinforce, if you were going to play him, 7,100, I think you get him in. This overall like Cleveland-Brooklyn game where KD's at like 9%. And remember the other night we were talking about this between KD and Luka, and it's like, just take out Luka, put in KD, and then KD goes off for like 65, and he does it in like the third quarter, really. I mean, he just kind of goes off. This should be a much more competitive game, we hope. So while KD is 11-7, they need to keep winning, and Atlanta needs to keep winning. So I think KD, if he's going to get these type of minutes and have a shot at 60, 70-point ceiling, I think you take it. Let's see here. Oh, Washington the Wizards and the Knicks game is actually one of my favorites on the night because I think, we're not really going to play a whole lot of Rui Hachimura because he let us down. We're probably not really going to look at Corey Kispert because he's very uninteresting. RJ's at, 7,600 and Obi Toppin's at 6,500 now, which is a little bit overpriced, but I think this is a big game. Jericho Sims is 4,800. I think he's got upside. I think this game is very intriguing, but it's kind of off the beaten path because it doesn't seem as important. But to me, it's no different than – hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. No different than the Lakers OKC where there are limited bodies available. And RJ's going to play big minutes and all these other guys are going to play big minutes. And they've got just as much ceiling as anybody.
Okay. And you're okay with the Washington as well, like Rui?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's not going to feel good.
That was a pained look from Roth.
Listen, it's not going to feel good, but Rui Hachimura had a bad game the last game. Mm-hmm. But go back to some of these other games, like against Minnesota, it gets a bad defense. We put up 32 fantasy points at 4,800. I'll take 32 fantasy points now. Will you need 40 at 4K tonight? Maybe, but you're going to get that from THT and some other guys. A $4,800 guy getting 35 fantasy points is valuable. I still think I'm willing to do it.
Okay.
Is there a more tournament player in the books right now just looking at his last four games? 39-7, 32-15.
Right. That's what he's doing. It's like
he's due.
So right. It's every other game.
Look at the pattern, boys. Yeah.
Every other game.
All right. Okay. Anything you want to add here, Means, or shall we kick it on over to a little DraftKings talk?
I'll kick it over to DK. I'll say, Roth, when you make that face about Rui, the thing I always say to people is like, everyone else makes that face and no one's going to play him.
Yeah.
That's like whenever the good tournament plays are usually the uncomfortable ones. So that whoever asks a question last night about what have I learned, maybe that's one thing I've learned. The good plays are sometimes the uncomfortable ones. I don't know if I learned that necessarily in this season. Probably learned it a couple of years ago, but that'll be my answer to that guy who asked that question last night. Let's go to DK. I have the same two guys tagged. Let's go through who we're pairing. Point guard, I think you're pairing Simpson with these guys. 3-9. He's playing a ton of minutes, getting a ton of assists, scoring up and down, but I think that's your starting group, starting build for cash games on DK. So let's look at shooting guard as well and see who we can look at for some guys to put over here at the guard spots. You're probably playing Taylor Horton-Tucker at your small forward, but let's look at who else we're going with here. And I think the answer for me is probably going to be Trent. I think he's one of your best options. And you can obviously move these guys around a bunch too, because a lot of them, or a handful of them, have forward eligibility. So it's not cut and dry where you're putting them, but I think that's the guy you're looking at. Another two cheap Thunder guys, Georgios and Frazier. I think those guys, if you're going full on studs and duds, which you might not need to, I think those guys are good for your guard spot here. Let's see here. Oh, and I did mention Lindy Waters too. Although I prefer the other guys a little better, just because we've seen them like just yank the minutes out from under Lindy. So I prefer the other two guys a little more.
When he hits a few shots, they bench him.
You're like, oh yeah, Lindy's cooking. Oh, he played 4 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you nailed that one, Ralph. Spin ups, Luka. I would be a little more inclined to play Luka on DK, mainly because you're not getting the Kyrie discount. Like Kyrie's cheaper than Luka, yes, but like Kyrie's just so cheap on FanDuel that I want to start there, then go to Luka if you want. But here, I think Luka makes a little more sense on DK. Kyrie and LaMelo, I think those guys are fine. Zach LaVine, I think, is fine as well. As spin ups, that's enough. That's enough guard talk, I think. Let's go to small forward. We know we have some guys here that I've already mentioned. THT and Trent. Probably one of my favorite spin ups on DK is RJ Barrett. Like he's not nearly as affordable on DK, but he's still probably gonna play 40 minutes. So I think he is a good cash game play tonight, believe it or not. So I think he's there. And then you have the same Giannis KD discussion. And it's a little different on DK where, it's a little easier to compare players at different positions than it is on FanDuel. So like, where does KD and Giannis fit next to Luka, et cetera? Tough for me to say. I still think I would go against projections and just play KD, man. I still think it just makes too much sense. I already talked about it enough on FanDuel. It just makes too much sense to play a guy that is just looking at so many minutes. So that's what I would do, but it's a decision. That's pretty much it, because it's basically like you have Trent, you have THT, you have Barrett, then you have Giannis, KD, Levine's there. Not too much more to get into. So let's get into these next two positions where it's a little less clear for me. You have the Stanley Johnson thing that I talked about on FanDuel. I think he's much more viable on DK just because of the pricing structure. You also have Ross Boy Jalen Horde at 5'6", who probably would be my priority at power forward. Him and DeRozan would probably be the first two guys I'd be looking at. You want one low, you want one high. There are your two options. A note, I saw something about the Raptors, and then Roth, I saw something on Mobley. They said they were going to keep him around 30 minutes. So definitely like topping more over on FanDuel because they're keeping Mobley around 30. But that reminds me about the Raptors too. Nurse is a liar usually, and coaches usually lie to the media. We know that. But one of the beat writers is expecting minutes to be curbed on the Raptors. They're on the second night of a back-to-back too. So, and they're playing the Rockets. Like, basically that means if they're out to a decent lead, Nurse will usually leave them in pretty long. Probably means he'd probably have a quicker leash or shorter leash, I should say, than normal. So like, it's probably not the night to spend up on Siakam. Rather play DeRozan or the KDs or whatnot.
And that was a question people had been asking about Pascal Siakam.
About Siakam?
Yeah.
Cool. So for me, a power forward, Horde first probably. You want one up top, DeRozan. You want one down low, Stanley Johnson. And you always have the KD. Honest guys there if you need it. Then center. Horde has center eligibility, which is huge. And you have some good Chief stuff here. Daniel Gafford. We've been joking about it for like 2 weeks. And I know Chief was talking about the Wizards, but they finally pulled the plug on some guys. Singer's out for the year. KCP's out for the year. So they finally did it with 2 games left, which is good for us tonight because we have cheap guys like Daniel Gafford, who is very much cash viable in my opinion. We have the same Dwight Howard discussion. Probably don't need to do it in cash, but a little easier to do on DK because you have the util spot. You have Precious Achua kind of right there. A bunch of center options, especially on the cheap. You have Vooch if you need to spend. But generally speaking, I didn't even mention Thomas Bryant. I like Gafford more than Bryant personally. He's just kind of been ahead of him in the rotation lately. And so I think that's where it would slightly lean tonight. So that's what I would do. Gafford over Bryant. And it's a toss up anyway. So take that for what it's worth. You have spends if you need it. Vooch, Gobert. But I think it's cheap or Horde if you're not using them at power forward.
Okay. Excellent. Good stuff. Let's see. Plenty of time. Chief, let's kick it over to DK tournaments here, and then we'll get into these QQs.
Yeah, I and this one's a little bit tricky for me. I'm going to actually start with the Lakers OKC game here. And I didn't talk about this particular person on FanDuel, but I do still like him on FanDuel. And it's a little bit of Russian roulette, but Roby and Horde, like Roby's kind of been crushing too secretly. Like he just didn't play as many minutes against Utah. Like if Roby played 35 minutes against Utah, I mean, he's going for 40 plus easy. Like, so I think Isaiah Roby sneakily in play today, and he's going to be on the outside looking in because he's 6,800. But the guy's got 50-point upside if he gets 40 minutes. Like we see the Portland game, we see the Detroit game. It's just if he gets big minutes in this spot against the Lakers, I don't care if Dwight Howard's out there. Dwight's probably going to play. What do you think, Means? 22 minutes, 25 at the most. Like I'm not really worried about Dwight Howard. I think Roby's in play, and I just wanted to mention that because his ownership is really low considering where I think his upside is for this next few games that they're going to let him play. I know Jeremiah Robinson Earl is going to get, I think, maybe 15 minutes. I think that was his cap coming back, and maybe he plays 15, but I'm not really worried about it. I wanted to point that out. In terms of other cheap centers, Dwight Powell's been okay. I don't think you need Dwight Powell today. I guess you're saying, well, why are you mentioning him? Well, he's 4,900, and I think he's got good upside against Portland. So just it's going to feel yucky, but I think he can get you there. I still like Vooch here on DK. You talked about DeRozan at 87. I mean, I think that's almost an auto play. Really good price on him against the Charlotte Hornets, who they're just a bad defensive team, and that's just the bottom line. I think Miles Bridges is okay at 7,700 as long as his minutes are going to be there, especially with Hayward not playing. If he gets 35 to 38 minutes, I think he's got some upside. I'm still going to be on these Rockets, and I've talked about that. I started FanDuel there, but Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green are both playing about 40 minutes a game, and you're saying, well, why does that matter? At some point, Kim Birch and Pascal and Scotty and Gary Trent are going to be on the bench. And guess who's not going to be on the bench? Kevin Porter and Jalen Green. They're playing against the starters. They're playing against the backups. They're playing against the G League squad. They're playing against everybody. So when they're playing 40 minutes a game, they've got so many opportunities to get there because when they sit these Raptors, they're down 20 and they're still playing. Like they're just racking up fantasy points all night. I love these Rockets. Green and Porter are expensive somewhat, but I don't think they're expensive enough for the roles they have. I think Kevin Porter should probably be $9K and Jalen Green should probably be $8K. So I think they're both about $400 to $600 short of where they should be based on the rest of the season. I really like those guys. And then once again, still going to be on the Wizards Knicks game. Measy talked about RJ at 83. Like, I like these mid-range 8K players that can get you 50, 60 tonight. Because you can get so many of them in. And then the obvious play of the night, going back to this Lakers game, didn't mention it because I shouldn't have to, but THT is 3,800 on DK, which is even more of a lock button. That's just ridiculous. I mean, even if they didn't know those guys were going to sit, he should have been at least 4,500 in the season by now. That's not the case. So if you lock him in, get in all of these mid-range plays, you get THT, who's probably going for, I would say, 30 minimum. Let's go 30 minimum. And you get, Roby and Horde, and let's say both of them go for 45, 50. Then you get all these other 7 and 8K guys that do it. And you look at the end of the night, your whole lineup's got 50 points in every spot. You're in a good spot to take down the tournament. That's how you win a tournament. That's how I think you should build this thing tonight.
I love that. And that is the only tournaments I've ever won. I've done exactly that. It hasn't been because a guy got 80 and my crappy guys got me 30. It's because every single dude got me 40 or 50. Like that's the lesson that I've learned.
To Chief's point, look at the game logs, man, on those 2 Rocket guys. It's
crazy.
Really absurd. Yeah. It's really absurd. Green's like a walking 45. Like the last 6 games have been 45. KBJ's got a 70, a 59, a 50, a 52, and a 42 in his last 5. Like, good God, man.
Yeah.
And do you see the ownership project? It's crazy, right?
I know. I'm looking. It's 1 and 4.
All right. Anything that we need to add here? We've got 9 minutes for some QQs. If not,
let's QQ it.
Feel good about it. All right, let's do it. Reggae Joe says, Roth, do you buy into the Drummond revenge narrative? I buy into all narratives, especially revenge narratives. I'm in.
Cleveland?
I'm in.
Come on.
I didn't even know there was a revenge narrative there, but in general, yes.
Well, if you want the real revenge narrative, it's Karis LeVert for those that are really listening.
Oh, I like that, and I love.
I like that one better. I like that one way better because he'll chuck. Drummond's just got to get rebounds.
Right. Yeah. This is a good question from DY. He says, Chief, assuming a blowout by Dallas, as they are 20 freaking point favorites, which Mavs bench players do you like? Or maybe starter that would still, get run at the end.
I mean, I think if you're going to the bench and you're looking for somebody that might play some minutes, I think it's probably Spencer Dinwiddie. Like, he's got to be a guy that can come in and play 28 minutes and get you 35, 40. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's the safe play. I think you definitely look at these other cheap players that are going to play 40 minutes guaranteed. But, I mean, if I had to pick one person, it's probably Dinwiddie, maybe some Josh Green, because they're already getting, but I think it would be Dinwiddie if anyone was going to kind of play slightly through their normal workload.
Gotcha. All right. Good stuff. Yappy says, hey, I'm having a hard time with Thomas Bryant projected minutes at 22. Are we super sure on this? I imagine we're not super sure about much. It's all
Yeah, I would bring him down a little bit. Yeah, bring him down to 18, 19.
Okay. All right. Will says DK Cash 2v2 means DeRozan Barrett or Durant Abdia.
DK?
Yes.
I would do the first one. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Dia for life. DK single entry. A couple guys that we like here. Precious v. Gafford. Chief.
That
Precious
was me.
Gafford. No, it was single entry.
Kind of a tough one. I think I'd go. I mean, Precious played 40 minutes against Philly the last game. Today against Houston. I think I'd go Precious. Okay. I don't think Gafford gets anywhere near 40 minutes.
Okay. Freyas, DK Cash. It's a 3v3 for you means as he's pouring wine off screen.
I'm typing.
Trent Barrett Toppin or KD Frazier Jr. and Horde.
That was DK?
It was DK Cash 3v3.
Say the first one again. I got the second one.
Yep. Trent Barrett Toppin.
Probably do the first one.
Okay. DKGPP from Joey Rock. Chief, you want Kyrie and Obi or KD and Rui? P.S. Thanks for an awesome season, guys.
That's actually a tough one. Give me the Kyrie version, but it's so close.
Okay. And thank you for hanging out with us all season, Joey. We appreciate it. Aside, FanDuel Cash 2v2 means Garland Siakam, which I feel like you already kind of, or Luka and Scotty doesn't. No, Barnes.
Easily the second one for me.
Okay. Hey, Beerman says, Chief, you answered my question with your analysis. Thank you. How about a favorite prop pick that is not a Rocket?
Ooh.
So if you're on, so let me tell you something I've been doing. Sorry to take up so much time, but I've been doing a lot of first half props because I don't know what's going to happen sometimes in the games.
That's smart.
So that's not a Rocket. I do like Corey Kispert over 10 fantasy points tonight in the first half of the game. I do like Rui over 7.5. I like Jericho Sims over 12.5 in the first half. Denny Avdia over 7.5 points. RJ over 19 fantasy points. Karis LeVert over 8.5.
All right. Well, you don't have to give it all away. You can sign up. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, listen, in props, we're all on the same team. So I can literally give you my whole card. I'm still going to make money. If we all win, we all win.
That's true. But if you sign up for Scores and Odds, you can get picks from the whole team. You can get Chiefs props. You get everybody's props. You get Meansy's props. You get my props. That's right. I'm on Scores and Odds when the weather really matters for baseball.
That's right.
You are.
Yeah. And more so for football, where I'm 65% on over-unders.
Okay, Rob.
65%.
Okay.
Get off.
What about that? What was it? Did you just put 100-unit play on that Pats Bills game?
Oh God, I wish that was so glorious. Let's see, 3 minutes here. Dancing Fighter, what are your thoughts on Gary Trent on DK? We liked him on FanDuel. He says, do you think he will play most of the time? Means?
I'm fine with him for cash, just because of his price.
Okay. DY says, in a DK GPP, is Bobby Boucher a good play regardless if Precious is in or out?
Chief, I still think he's good.
Yeah. Is there Precious worries? Did I miss that?
I don't think it's that, but they're playing Houston. So I just don't mind it. Like if they get any type of lead on Houston, 15, 20 points, and he comes in, he should have a field day.
Yeah. Okay. Jungle Boy, DK GPP Chief. Any Colby Cheese White love?
No.
Okay. DK GPP, what are your thoughts on stacking Thunder Lakers game while trying to fit in players still playing for something like Irving, KD, and Young?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's
the name of the game, baby, this time of year.
Yeah, excellent. Mike says, hey, guys, just want to say thank you for another great season. On to baseball, but I can't wait for next NBA season. That's exactly my feelings. On to baseball, but I can't wait for NBA again. Thanks for hanging out with us, Mike. Frey is DK Cash TV2. Kyrie Horde means or Luka Gafford? Also says thanks for a great season. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Man, those are both good. I would play both of those. Damn, that's tough. I think Kyrie Horde.
RDS says, I'm stuck at small forward. This is on FanDuel. I'm stuck at small forward between Horde and KD on FanDuel. KD's a no-brainer, but if I use KD and use Horde at small forward, I can use KD at power forward and remove Roby. So it's like a menage player here of KD.
I mean, I was going to say that's probably a Chief question. And if I could speak for Chief briefly, would be that you probably don't want Roby in there if you're playing Horde. So maybe that's good that you just play Horde and KD.
Chief?
I don't know if I understood the question correctly, but what do you think, Chief?
I like Horde and KD. I think Horde's got really good upside for the price anyway. I mean, probably about a walking 40 fantasy points if they keep giving him these minutes. So I definitely like Horde more than Roby. Because I feel like Horde's guaranteed 40 minutes because he's kind of like not really part of the plan, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas Roby is probably a little bit more part of the plan, more willing to sit him. Definitely go the Horde route.
Okay, excellent. With that, we're there. We have made the lock. The long season means the long season, and means he's out, and he's done. Are you celebrating tonight, Means? Are you like, hey, we did it, you and the wife, like having a steak dinner and some fancy wine?
Wife's been out of town for the last couple of nights, and she gets back in like an hour. So I'm gonna get off of the show, order us some freaking good food, and I'm gonna continue just housing this wine until she gets here. Like, oh yeah, honey, just opened up this bottle. Yeah. How's it going?
I'll tell her it was the second bottle you opened. Just say I just opened
Exactly.
up the bottle. Couple more questions here. Dancing Fighter G, DKGBP. What are your thoughts on Phoenix on the late slate? Excuse me.
I'm not interested in Phoenix playing Utah.
Okay. Yeah.
This game isn't important. Phoenix is number one. They care, but they don't care. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Cranesters, thank you to Kevin, Means, and Chief. Appreciate you guys. We appreciate you. Yappy says DK Cash, Vooch over Levine, and is Trent okay for Cash?
I think Trent's okay. Vooch over Levine, that's tough, man. Vooch has been, oh boy, he's been rough lately, but Levine's knees kind of messing with him. Let me look here. I think I would go Vooch.
Okay. All right. So you are okay with Vooch over Levine?
Yeah, it's close. I mean, neither of them have looked that great, but I would slightly lean Vooch over Levine. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. With that, we are officially out of here. We've answered all the questions. We've done all the things. We hit the lock. Nancy, you can celebrate.
We've officially answered all the questions. That's over a whole season, technically.
I don't just mean today. I mean over an entire, yes. Every single one.
Oh, boy.
Means, are we going to get you on any MLB shows or not?
Man, I have no idea what's going to happen. Probably not, would be my guess, short of me like just, crashing and annoying you. Yeah. And being in Discord and annoying you. That is probably where I'll make an appearance, but you probably won't see me on many MLB shows, if any. But I'm guessing I'm going to be still pretty heavy in the NBA streets through the next, why we have multiple games a day through the playoffs.
Right. Okay.
And honestly, I think the playoffs are going to be even better because, we don't have to worry about these crazy rotations. The guys that are going to play. It's always better.
For you people out there playing NBA DFS in the playoffs, remember the minutes for the good players, they go up. They go up. So you want Giannis playing 40 minutes, maybe not in the first round, but you're going to get the good players playing good minutes. So you're going to be playing like the good players are going to project really well. So you're going to be playing like fringy guys. Like this guy's not a good value. His RG value is not even dark green, but like, look at the studs and how good they're going to be because they play so many minutes in the playoffs.
Yeah. And I wonder if the actual play is to not pay for the studs that are getting all the minutes. That way you don't have to play any fringy guys. You play the mid, like the fourth and fifth guys who still get all the minutes.
Like DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, they still get all the minutes, but they're not 12, 13K.
Touche.
Maybe. We'll see. The thing that annoys me about NBA playoffs and playing DFS is that you do, you like have these choices to make on Monday, and then you have the same choices to make on Wednesday.
The content for that the content gets a little annoying. But like the last year or two, there have actually been more like people sitting out playoff games, believe it or not. So it's weird. Like you do get like injuries do still happen, mainly because people are playing so many minutes. But that especially like in the finals, that got really annoying.
Right. Yeah. Just when the schedules repeat themselves over and over again, you're like, wait, I've done this twice already this week.
Yeah.
But regardless, certainly looking forward to continuing some NBA plays over there on our wonderful sponsor, Fanduel, of course. And with that, we are going to call it here. So Means I'm going to let you guys say a quick little goodbye as it is the final one. So Means.
Go ahead, Chief.
Chief.
Well, thanks everybody for hanging out. I'm a guest on this show. I'm not a staple. The staple is Andy Means and Kevin Roth, but I'm glad I've been able to hang out with you guys. It's been really fun doing these shows with you this year, and so hopefully I get invited back for next season. And thanks everybody for listening.
I like it, and agreed, man. It has been an absolute pleasure. It's been a joy working with you, and certainly we'll have you back next year as well, man.
Julio.
Can I just say my goodbye, people? Does that work here, Roth, or no?
Maybe a little something more than your usual.
We don't ever have two-man booths anymore. So you would say, "Oh, we have two people," so it means I say goodbye. Say goodbye, people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy that I feel like I was literally just getting ramped up for like the bubble. Like, oh my God, we're gonna have NBA games again, and now we're like 2 seasons past that.
Right.
It's just wild to me, but yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I hear a lot of the same names when Ross reading QQs, see a lot of the same people in Discord. It means a lot to all of us that you guys hang out with us every day. So I love what I do. I love the people that hang out with us all the time. I love the people I work with. So no complaints here, man. It's a hectic time, but let's think about what we're doing here. Like Dean was saying earlier, like we're talking about the NBA. So appreciate everybody, man.
Yeah. I always this is literally many days. The highlight of my day is coming on here and hanging out with these guys and just, bullshitting hoops and hanging out with everybody in the Discord. So we appreciate you for everything you did all year long. Means, Chief, for Devin, Steve, or Eli working hard behind the scenes, and they all did all year. We appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you next season or over the weekend or for baseball. You have been crunched.